Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's podcast 508. Disc Golf Guy, along with Johnny V.
Rainy Milwaukee. It seems like it rains every Tuesday.
Yeah, thus far. And funny enough, I remember as
you bring the rain.
I do. I was leaving last week. It apparently had rained in the middle of our podcast, and some storms had rolled through. And you're like, oh, I wonder if anything happened out there. And we're like, I can't really tell. And then I drive down your road. There's tipped over garbage cans everywhere. Clearly, the wind was ripping.
A good storm came through.
Certainly did. Well, now that we got our old guy talk down, super excited that tonight we're going to recap a little bit, selfishly, a little bit what I saw going on this weekend out in Washington State. An area that I clearly haven't gotten to enough because it was just so gorgeous. It looks
beautiful. It really looked beautiful.
There's obviously a great golf scene, a lot of great people out there. And when it was all said and done, there was a Q Series event that was taking place. And that is an entirely separate conversation for another day for everyone to understand the Q Series and what that does and doesn't mean. But a Q Series event for the Disc Golf Pro Tour. And I'm talking about the Cascade Challenge. And Jeff Corns, along with the local crew, Mason County Disc Golf Club, putting on the event along with Jeff and Discraft and Resistance and everything else. But what a cool experience and what an unbelievable course. And certainly one of the main storylines from the weekend, I feel like, besides one of our champions who's going to join us in a few minutes, just how well received and how much everyone enjoys this particular course. And I don't want to say what a breath of fresh air, because people, of course, enjoy many of the courses on tour, but people are really into this Shelton Springs course.
Do you think this course has potential for a pro tour?
Yeah,
like a full pro tour? Is it that caliber of a course?
It is, and last year this was a silver event, so some of you saw it on Central Coast. And was there one round of coverage during the Silver Series last year? Still
one live, yes.
Excuse me, yeah, that's what I meant. One live round, and then all the rounds were produced post production with Central Coast. Absolutely. It's crazy that it comes in at 8,300 feet or so in the current layout that it was in. So it's definitely on the shorter side. That's probably somewhere right in the neighborhood of what you'd find with Waco. But just the carving of fairways, when I was talking to Jeff Corns and I said, before I'd even step foot on the course, he said, there's some Jackson-like qualities out here.
Really?
Now, unfortunately, there's not any elevation. The few inches of elevation on two of the final few holes, we kind of made a joke about, with just how there's a subtle roll-away potential on a very tiny hill near a couple of the greens, I think on 15 and 17. But if you want to get critical, that would be the one, and there's only so much you can do, obviously. There's just really no elevation whatsoever to play with, which is kind of crazy, too, because that area, of course, is very diverse in the topography that they have. Yeah. And it just happens that in Shelton, at this course, there isn't any form of elevation, really, to work with. But, yeah, everyone seems to love this course. And maybe these exact same things were all said last year. With Johnny not working the event, with me having nothing to do with the event, I didn't see as much feedback as opposed to being there in person this year. And just the disc golf community is very much into it. The Seattle surrounding area. It's about 45 minutes to an hour from Seattle. Olympia is certainly in that area. When you're going from Seattle, you go through Olympia or that area to get actually to the course as well. So tons of great people, tons of great golf. And whether or not we'll see it on the tour next year, I guess, is the question, and in what capacity. I think last year it got essentially placed in the lineup because there was otherwise going to be too much stuff going on in Oregon at the same time, and they wanted to see something in a different state. And that's right when we were having the Tim Selinsky was taking place out in Eugene. And so having something that was where the Pro Tour could be kind of in that time frame, I don't want to say it was a filler, but it certainly, I feel like Jeff Corns and the crew really stepped up in order to help make that a reality last year. And then this year being on the new Q series, which, like I said, is it continues to be a funny conversation that's out there. So we had post-production. I think many of you, especially if you're here, you've seen some of the action in terms of the MPO side. All 3 rounds of MPO post-production fully produced, fully out there, and was ready to go yesterday morning already. And now over the next couple of days, we're going to see all 3 rounds of the FPO action. So if you don't want to know what happened on the FPO side, you might want to tune out for the next hour or so.
Don't look at the title. Don't
do that if it's already too late. But yeah, so FPO is going to get released in the next couple of days as well. And big shout out. I'm going to say it more than once, but I had a semi-local in Justin join me to help out. He runs Fairway Media .golf and has a YouTube channel. And then I also worked with Elijah Chisley Bear doing some work out there as well, who's a golfer working on a YouTube channel. And those 2 guys were kind of the backbone to making sure that we had the coverage that we did out there with those guys working cameras and me doing most of the edits. And another story that we'll get to after our guest is one of the other superstars and storylines of the weekend was hearing and seeing one Alden Harris, who was very, very well received on the mic throughout the weekend as well.
Oh,
so nice. Again, we can get into more of that
he
later.
seems to be comfortable in front of this camera thing. I'm not sure.
He did great. Well, someone else who performed very well this weekend and ultimately walked away with an axe of her own, and we're talking about our FPO champ, that's Deann Carey. Hey, Deann, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm no longer on the West Coast where you guys are, as I'm sure you ventured from Washington down there into Portland. And right off the bat, tell everyone what this section of the tour and what the course is and the geography and topography and the everything. Like, explain to everyone what it's like being in the Pacific Northwest right now.
It's absolutely beautiful, for one.
Yep.
But it's funny because me and AJ were talking. The course that we played last weekend for Cascade is nothing like the other courses that we play on the Pacific Northwest. Most of them are really long golf courses, a lot of elevation, especially out here at Portland.
Mm-hmm.
And then Shelton was on the shorter side, very wooded. And so you get a little mix if you decide to play all of them.
And that's exactly what I was talking about just before you joined us, is that if there's one thing you could get, we'll say, nitpicky about with regard to the Shelton course, it feels like somebody would say, well, it'd be great if there's maybe a little bit of water and or just some hills to deal with. But other than that, like, what is your how do you describe that Shelton course to others, and where do you rank it in terms of the enjoyment factor for you to play?
I absolutely love it. I think it's a great course. It's not super long, but it's not super short. There isn't a lot of elevation, but there's a lot of trees, which makes it very difficult if you're not hitting your gaps.
Yeah, and beautiful trees, just like you guys will see a little bit over there at the Portland Open course, and obviously out in at Beaver State Fling, very similar in that sense, in terms of just the overall, like, the majestic trees and the beauty and everything else that it has to offer. When you say on the short side, does that course set up well for the FPO division? I guess let's just start there. Do you feel like scoring opportunities and things of that nature, does it set up well?
I definitely think so we play from the white tee pads,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's a great FPO course. Nothing is unreachable. There might be like one or two par threes that might be like you got to throw a really far shot, but the course is pretty scoreable.
Yeah, and speaking of which, you had no problems getting some scoring together. In particular, it was your second round that felt like it was just really on another level. And unofficially, it came in with a rating of 1036. Well, how does that rank for you personally?
I was very, very happy with it, of course. I mean, shooting 10 down, of course I'm going to be happy with it. But I am a little bit mad because I know for a fact I missed 2 easy birdie putts and then 2 upshots that I just messed up that I could have got an easy birdie on. So that's 4 holes that could have been better.
True.
But all in all, I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, you beat the rest of the competition by 8 strokes that round. 8, I believe Emily Yale she shot a 60 and was able to move up the leaderboard, shooting 8 strokes worse than you. That's an amazing gap. What do you equate that to? Just perfect throwing, or I don't say perfect. Clearly, as you just discussed, that you missed some, but like what was it about that second round?
My card was great. We had good vibes flowing the whole time. But really, I knew that Saturday was going to be the day out of the whole weekend to score. The first round, I was 3 through 3 and then finished 2 over. And I was like, well, I'm not going to let that happen again. But so I knew that Saturday was the day I had to make a push if I was going to. And I think I was 7 down through 9, which that kind of upsets me too because I only shot 10.
Okay,
but
sure.
That's another thing.
Well, and what I think is crazy with regard to that overall score is not only did you do far better than what we saw for the hot round opening by Kat Murch, who was out there trying to defend her title. She had the hot round 1, but it's not in front of me. Was it 18 or 19 stroke swing between you and the leader in Kat Murch? Does that sound right? During that round? I know she struggled a little. Sorry, Johnny.
The second round?
Yeah. You and Kat, 19 strokes. When's the last time you thought, yeah, I'll get Kat Murch by 19 in a round? I mean, let's be fair. No one's planning on that.
No. But I did tell her before the second round of the tournament, I walked up to her and I told her I was coming for her.
Okay.
So you scared her. Nice. A little intimidation factor. I mean,
yeah, but coming for you is like chipping away at like the 2 or 3 or 5 stroke lead, not whooping her by 19.
I believe when the diesel comes for you, she runs you over.
Apparently. And you know, Kat got things going again during her final round and then made a charge and everything else. And I'm not trying to pick on Kat, but just seeing how well she executed during the opening round. She won last year, and most people have to be thinking she's the highest rated player defending her title, has the hot opening round. You could kind of start writing, you know, maybe the weekend recap in your head a little bit, and you're like, no, I'm coming for you, Kat. I've got an axe to grind with you, literally. So we were just discussing briefly before you joined us, just the idea of seeing an event or, seeing this course and potentially an event on the Elite Series. Is it fair to say you would give it its blessing, or what would you think if anything needs to change? What might that be, if anything?
I think for it to be an Elite Series event, they definitely need to take a few of the shorter holes out, or just like they need to make some longer holes. Like hole 14 that's the hardest hole in the course. Mm-hmm. And I think if you put a few more holes in just like that hole, then it could no problem be an Elite Series.
Yeah. And I know there's some considerations. One of the challenges with being live there last year, as they reiterated this weekend, is saying I think like 15 through 18 actually all struggled mightily with cell signal, even to the point where you guys had a hard time I think keeping some of your live scores and or keeping some calls and whatnot is that cell service can be really challenging there. So there has been talks about, potentially changing up some holes or maybe adding some holes that, would make some adjustments, just like you're talking about overall on that course. But dare I ask, do you have a favorite hole out there?
I really like hole 12 and 13.
Okay, so 11 is the island hole, which most people will certainly remember or know about. And then 12, I believe 12 is one where they've added a longer pin that I think used to be a par 3, everyone was saying, and now you just kind of want to land right where the old hole used to be, and then they added a couple hundred extra feet to it. Is that right? Am I thinking of the right hole? Does that sound about right to you?
I'm not sure. Last year we played it in the same position.
Okay. Yeah, but I think in general that
year,
hole is, maybe has been switched up. It was either 12 or 13. Okay. All right. That makes sense. And 13, I've got bad news for you, though. Alden Harris was saying that was one of his favorite holes on the course. And when I relayed that to a couple of the people from the club, they say, if we have to do any redesigns, 13 might be one that gets either longer or we have to make an overall adjustment to it. So, but nonetheless, also a really, really good hole. What does this do for your confidence and for your just overall outlook on playing golf on the Pro Tour and traveling week in and week out? What does an event like this and a win like this do for you?
It definitely boosts my confidence, which I really needed, because if you saw how I've finished earlier in the year, it hasn't been the greatest so far.
Okay.
But it definitely gives me a lot more confidence going into the rest of the season.
It's a nice way to get your West Coast swing started, so to speak. I mean, you've got OTB, which, I mean, you were in theory trending up on the Pro Tour, finishing 17th at OTB, one of your higher finishes on the Pro Tour this season. Maybe actually your highest finish on the Pro Tour this season, and then coming in with this, I would assume it's got to give you a little bit more confidence, like you said, going into the Portland events, where, I mean, Beaver State Fling seems to be a favorite from everybody, and the upcoming Portland Open, which is a DGPT Plus event.
Yeah, there's no better time than now to be striking during a Plus event. Well, it was Valerie Mondahano a couple years ago who won she won back to back, right? I think it was Portland and Beaver State. And just the fact that, finding a rhythm or a groove or something that you might like about the area or whatever. What do you feel like you were missing earlier this year, and some of the things that you have struggled with that maybe you overcame this weekend?
Well, I switched putters after Champions Cup.
Okay. From what to what?
So I was putting with the Benny.
Uh-huh.
And now I'm putting with a Jackrabbit.
What's the difference for someone who may not know the intricacies of the Lone Star disc? What's the difference?
So the Benny, it has a micro bead. It's pretty shallow, overstable, but really glidey.
Okay.
Jackrabbits are a lot thicker of putters with a big bead. They go nowhere.
Just not much glide, kind of fall out of the air, and then are they way more stable too, or do they just not have nearly the glide?
Not nearly the glide and way more stable.
Okay, so that seems like a very drastic change. Do you feel like then as a result of that, are you switching up your actual technique considerably?
No, I put the same. So before I was sponsored by Lone Star, I was with Innova, and I was putting with KC AVRs and Nexus Big Beat AVRs.
Yeah, okay.
So the Jackrabbit's similar in feel and flight, and I kind of just got away from that. And then I really lost the confidence in my putting, so I was like, well, it's time to switch it up. Let's see what I can do. And it's helped with my Circle 2 putts, which I also switched from a jump putt to a putt.
To a step putt?
Yeah.
Is there a reason for that? I was listening to the interview with Kristin Tattar about some of the some of the people online that will go out and slow-mo everybody's jump putt and, really break it down. And she had said something along the lines of, well, that's the first time she's really gotten a lot of kickback for some of her play. And I think that a lot of people, when they jump putt, it is, it's so hard to say. Was there anything behind that for you, or do you feel like it's just more of a physical focus thing for you?
It really came down to when I was jump putting, I was more likely to send it to 30, 40 feet past the basket.
Yeah.
And with the step putt, I don't do that, and I feel like I'm more online with it.
Okay.
What would you compare your previous putt of the Benny? What would you compare that to? Because as you just said, a Nexus or a KC AVR, and I know exactly how those react. When you were explaining the Benny, is that more like almost like a Fierce or something like that? That's maybe a little straighter, a little glidier.
I would consider it kind of like an EMAC Judge.
Okay.
Or yeah, kind of.
Now the follow up is, and I know this is a Q series, and that's no, it's still obviously an incredible win, but the follow up to that all is there any bonus or trophy disc or extra support disc or anything else that they're doing to commemorate? Has that conversation been had, or does that not fit under a Q series victory?
No conversations have been had yet, but we'll see.
Yet's the key word there.
Yeah, I mean, I could
make it happen, Lone Star.
Yeah, get a new stamp of some sort on one of your curls, one of your Tour Series curls. That'd be great.
We're looking up Johnny. Yeah, Johnny's got these pulled up online. What are some of your go-tos? And I know we don't normally talk a lot of discs when we're on the show, mainly because a lot of people either have had their bag for a long time and or are with companies that we've seen that have been around for a long time. Obviously, Lone Star, much newer to the scene just the last couple of years. What are some of your go-tos that you're bagging and what are you using them for?
Let's see. Of course, my Tour Series curl. I use the curl for understable, like a little bit more than fairway, but not max distance shots. I also have a stable one in the bag that'll do good if I need some turn with a little bit of fade. My go-to distance driver is actually the Starship from Sacred Disc.
Okay.
And that thing flies really nicely. I use that on about 80% of my tee shots. If it's a distance driver, it's probably a Starship. My favorite fairway driver is hands down the Frio.
Okay.
It's pretty much dead straight, a little bit of turn, a little bit of fade. It's great. And then I think my favorite mid-range is definitely the Texas Ranger, which is some of the straightest mid-ranges I've ever thrown.
It's so interesting to hear you talk about both a fairway and your mid in terms of how straight they fly. Is that a direct indicator of your throwing style? And what I mean by that is some people go overstable, some people really love throwing flippy, so on and so forth. But when you're saying you're throwing stuff that goes really straight, it almost tells me maybe you have a little truer flight and or confidence in the way you release.
Maybe. But I can also, like, they're straight. I can also get them to turn over for me or to fade out if I need to. But pretty much they're going to go straight every time.
It sounds like it works. Now, it's always interesting to me to hear when we do get into disc talk, which isn't a ton, but when we do get into it, are you someone that goes with max weights, or how do you adjust your weights for what you're trying to get out of your discs in terms of heavy or not?
So it's really different now. So whenever I was playing for Innova, I liked 165 to 169 was spot. But since I've transitioned over to Lone Star and this year, everything's max weight.
What? Why do you suppose that is?
I don't know. Probably mainly because me and AJ share a lot of discs.
Okay. Yep.
And so it's a lot easier for him to disc out of his bag, or he can take a disc out of mine, and max weight is just easier for us to do that.
Makes a lot of sense. And with that being said, is it all too obvious to assume that you and AJ's bag ultimately is still quite different between the discs that you're throwing, or do you feel like you share a ton of similar molds?
I would say our bag is probably 85% the same.
Oh,
Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's gotta be really nice when it comes to practice time.
Yeah. So if I throw all my disc and then I need an extra one that I don't have, he'll just throw me one out of his bag and I'll throw it.
and then hopefully, if it happens during an event, you can use it in the morning. He can use it in the afternoon.
Yeah.
We're all set.
That
just gets a lot of certain discs get more use than others.
Wow. Yeah, I was gonna say. Now he didn't win. He's not the star of the show, but it's only fair to ask how did his weekend go out there as well this last weekend?
I think he tied 18th,
Mhm.
so not too bad. He definitely wanted to shoot a lot better, but not too bad of a finish.
When you guys get done on a Sunday night like this, and one of the two of you picks up a victory like this, what is the celebration, or something maybe that's out of the ordinary that you guys do a little differently to celebrate?
So it's actually pretty funny. We headed straight to Portland after the round or after AJ's round, because we were checking in our campsite, and AJ asked me if I wanted to go there to celebrate. And I was like, no, we have chicken in the fridge. We can cook it when we get there.
Well, that
I mean, with living on the road like that, there are some times it's like we got to cook the food we have. You don't want it to go bad. You don't want it. Chicken can be notorious for turning relatively quickly. You got to priorities, Terry.
Practical, which I think everybody should be able to appreciate, that it doesn't have to be necessarily about will you do anything else though that's maybe out of the ordinary this week, or is it just like you're right back to business?
Pretty much it's right back to business. We got a practice round in yesterday. We got 2 practice rounds in today.
Damn.
We'll practice tomorrow, and then we'll have a little get together with our friends, celebration for that, and then AJ's birthday is tomorrow, so we'll have like a little party.
Well, heck yeah. Well, happy birthday early to AJ then.
I'm sure Terry will send out his normal Facebook message or something to
Well, that's awesome.
to everybody.
With that, you bring up such a great point with regard to the timing. Relatively short drive. I mean, just about as short as it gets, actually. And then even Beaver State, obviously, nice and close next weekend, or the weekend after, so to speak. But relatively short drive to get from the Cascade event down to the Portland event. But 4 rounds, 2 courses. How does that turnaround feel to you?
In the end, we could have taken last week off.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people took the week off. We really enjoyed the Sheldon Springs course, so we decided to play it. We're not too upset because, I mean, last year we did the same thing: 1 round, 2 rounds, and then 1 round for practice. And out here we can get golf carts, so.
You cut out when you said you could get golf carts, but I'm going to assume you're happy because I see everyone posting about their practice rounds. And to be fair, it makes perfect sense that you guys are kind of conserving a little bit of the energy as early as you can, knowing you've got a long weekend coming up. Is that kind of the gist of what you're saying?
Yeah. These courses are really long.
Yeah. So going from, you're getting a little choppy on us. Going from one of the shortest courses on the tour to one of the longest courses, or two of the longest courses, do you like the idea of playing two different courses over the next 4 days?
Oh, looks like she froze up a little bit. I think we lost her call.
I think she loves it, then. I'm going to say.
I mean, I would guess that she loves it.
We're going to say that she does. All right, we're going to see. She was getting a little choppy on us. Hopefully, I don't know if everybody's showing up at the campsite and
taking up that Wi-Fi. They're all streaming the show.
Yeah,
and they're wrecking her. They're wrecking her cell
that makes
signal.
sense. Well, we'll see. We'll hold tight for a minute and see if we can get her back.
She's logging back in now, as we can see. So,
all right,
there she's back.
All right, yeah,
Back.
all good.
Yeah.
All right, you're back and crystal clear, which is great. So I guess what I was just asking was, you go from one of the shortest courses that you guys will see this year now to two very long courses over 4 days. How do you feel about going out and playing two different courses over the next few days?
I really enjoy these courses.
Okay.
So that doesn't bother me. Being on tour, I'm used to long courses. So nothing really changes.
Yeah.
So many people kind of hold their breath or they skip holding their breath and they go right to just typing and assuming negative comments when we head to golf courses. Obviously, we saw OTB. We were just at Dynamic Disc Open. There's a handful of golf courses on the tour. What is your assessment of these two courses in particular this weekend that you'll see?
I really enjoy them because it gives you, yes, we're on a golf course, but there's a good bit of woods on both courses. So it's not like some of the other golf courses that we play where the woods don't really come into play much, but I like it. It challenges you on gap shooting and distance. So
do you have a preferred course? I forget. I don't know if are they east and west.
Glendower East and Glendower West.
Wow, that's pretty clever. Do you have a preferred course of the two?
I definitely think East is funner to play.
Okay.
West is a lot harder, but I like them both. But East would be my favorite.
East. Okay.
I'm going to petition that we stop naming courses East and West. I think it's too confusing for most viewers. Give them like unique names.
Sure,
like the Eagle and the Falcon or something weird.
Sure.
Like just something to distinguish them, because I think East and West in my head gets real easy to confuse, especially when there's 36 holes and we play them once a year. I don't know. That's just I'll throw that out there. I'm going to bring that up on the next Pro Tour conversation.
I mean, yeah, and let's just double down on the challenge. If it's normally or has previously been East and West, come up with animals or names that maybe start with an E or a W.
Oh, there you go.
Right. So then we'll always know, oh, yeah, the Eagle course, the course on the east
the
side.
Walrus course.
And the Walrus course on the west side, the West Side Walrus, and then similarly north and south or whatever. So, or original, like OG, something that starts with an O versus, the new course, O and N names. I don't know. We're just spitballing here, Deann. What if... Here's a random one for you. If you got to name any course, which I'm sure you've thought about having your own property or what it would be like to design a course or whatever, have you ever thought or had like a course name in mind that or a theme that you would go with if you had that opportunity?
I've never thought about it. So I'm not sure.
All right. Well, you and AJ, you guys have that talk tonight and say, hey, save
it for your next road trip. Long road trip.
I'd like to know what he thinks, and then what you think as to what you guys would what theme you'd go with.
They could have an East and a West, like a his and hers.
Exactly. I need course names. I don't know. We're doing the marketing as well here, all on the fly. All right. Portland, you talked about camping. How because there is, and I hate to always sound like I'm just bringing up negatives, but I do then enjoy the actual, perspectives. One of the drawbacks or negatives that gets talked about is getting around on the entire West Coast, and or the expenses that are associated with being in the West Coast. That's not particular to disc golf. That's of course in general. How easy is it for you guys? Do you face any challenges, or if you do, how have you overcome challenges traveling and being out specifically in the Pacific Northwest?
Only complaint is gas is expensive.
Yeah, fair. It is. I had to gas at my rental, and I'm like, $4.99 a gallon. Compared to here in Wisconsin, it was $3.19 today. So there's a considerable difference there. Okay, but otherwise, getting around campsites where there's plenty of opportunities. Is it a national park, or what kind of things do you find to camp out here?
Well, since we've been doing this for so many years, we have our favorite spots that we like to go to. OTB usually, like, they let us stay on site if we want to, but it was going to be hot there, so we got campsite for that spot.
Okay.
Portland, there's not much you can do, so we always stay at the same campground or the RV park that we have for the past 3 years.
Okay.
So we have our spots that we like.
And the follow up to that is like, what makes, because you guys are all so in this, this caravan community of, year after year at these places. What are some of the boxes that you'd like checked when it comes to finding your lodging and where you're going to go year after year? What are some things you look for?
Really, if we can, a lot of the courses that we play at, we're allowed to stay on site, so we do stay on site.
Okay.
We only get RV parks if we have to, if there's no other option, like they're not allowing us to stay on site, or some places we're just like, well, we're gonna do it. Especially the past 2 years, because we've been traveling. We've had a dog traveling with us. So we have to make sure he's good. If it's super hot, we'd like to make sure that we're hooked up to air conditioning at all times, so we don't have to run the generator as much. That just depends. But I have a list of campgrounds and RV parks that we've stayed at for the past few years, and so those are my go-tos.
I think of yourself. I think of Brittany Dickerson. I think of it coincidentally, it's usually the women that are doing all the smart, resourceful planning here. Jules and Big Germ. I think of all of these women and these teams that are out there doing all this work, and it would just be so interesting to compare all of your list as to, hey, we like this place, or we hated this place, or even just, does it sometimes get competitive about, hey, there's only 20 sites at this place year after year, and there's 33 of us, I don't know, that need a site or whatever. Does the timing ever get competitive?
The biggest one is Milo. So,
okay.
Of course, you want to stay on site there. It's a pretty cheap campground, but you're on the property. You don't have to leave if you don't need to. That one, I think, only has like 45 spots there.
Okay.
And you have to book 6 months in advance.
Yep.
Or you're not getting a spot. So I think in December or something, we were playing a tournament, and I would think I had like 5 minutes before my tee time, and I was booking the campground, and then I was also calling or texting all of our friends, like, hey, you need to book this campground now if you're going to do it. So that's really the only one that gets super crazy that you have to be on it.
Okay. Yeah, I think of the stories of, like you just said, whether it's 6 months or whether it's January 1st or January 2nd oftentimes, or if it's exactly 1 year out from the day. Like every campground and or municipality, I feel like handles it slightly different, and that's all right there on that spreadsheet and that list of like, yes, here, and I can book, starting on this date.
It's a lot of calendar events in my calendar.
It is. Like and someone on the board's asking, keeping a list of campgrounds, any chance Deann would ever do a book about disc golf travel? Is that, have you ever considered something of that?
Good one.
What would
Never
you feel like?
Never considered it, but now.
What would you, Jordan, along with James Conrad? I thought they kept a very detailed, like down to the penny, as to what they spent when they were traveling, one of the years on the road, and then she published it all, and it was really interesting to read. So I guess what else besides the campgrounds in and outs? What are some of the other things that, if you were putting together your table of contents, what else might be in a book for disc golf travel?
That's a hard question.
Road preparation?
Really, it's just
how about equipment / vehicle prep or maintenance? Could that be a chapter? Or no?
oh yeah, yeah.
Clearly,
You guys have had a few flat tires, right?
Well, we've had a few, but yeah, we just had one at Champs Cup.
That's what I thought I remembered seeing, possibly. That's what made me think of it.
Yeah, and then we've done a little bit more work. Like currently, we have to figure out why we don't have clearance lights on the RV. We can't figure that out.
Like
so
they're
we
not
can't
turning
drive at
on?
night right now.
They're not like turning on.
They turn on, but they pop the fuse every time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sounds like a short of some kind.
So we got to figure that out.
Okay. What other things within the RV?
We got to figure meal prep.
Meal prep. There's that could be a chapter. What are some of the things you guys have learned and experienced as part of the RV life in terms of actual RV / camper maintenance and fixing?
Okay, we make a joke, and we say there's only 2 types of RVs in the world.
Mm-hmm.
One that has a leak and one that's gonna leak.
Yeah.
You're always fixing something.
Oh man.
In an RV. And I mean, you have to think about it. You're taking your house, like, we drive a whole lot more than most people with RVs. We're taking this everywhere. And your house is going through tiny earthquakes every time you drive.
Yeah.
Everything is constantly moving and shifting, and so I feel like there's always something.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't think of it from exactly that perspective. I know you're always in your house and it's always moving, but even just a rough day of rough road is like beating on your house, like indirectly, right? Like suspension and everything else, but a rough day of traveling around on less than ideal roads right off the bat is going to probably cause something to shake loose or become disconnected or create a hole or a leak. So yeah, I guess that's an interesting perspective as well. What I'm already thinking ahead, not too far, but I think about the Clackamas people tubing and out in the rafting and rivers and all that kind of stuff. What types of activities might you make sure to take in the Pacific Northwest in the next few weeks?
Disc golf.
Okay.
We have tournaments to win.
I know, and I'm not insinuating you're out there just, effing around playing.
But Beaver State is notorious for, like you said, the rivering, the hanging out. Like that is what, it's similar to what I think like the preserve is these days, where everyone gets the preserve and there's just, it's a mini festival or party. Like party makes it sound like, they're not taking it serious. Mini festival. But yeah, so you don't partake in any of the side games or any of the
business
fun?
All the time.
Well, also the water's too cold here for me.
Okay.
I'm not messing around with that. We'll hang out afterwards with our friends and like just do stuff like that, but focused mainly on disc golf.
Okay. So like I guess I think of rock climbing and swimming holes and all that stuff isn't necessarily a top priority. Your first business is the play, which I can love and appreciate as well, for sure. That makes perfect sense. After this swing, you I presume, start heading back into the center of the country when we take a look, Beaver State. And then it's a couple of weeks for you to get all the way ultimately over to the preserve, which we were just talking about. Will that be the needed break that June 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th weekend, Father's Day weekend, I think that is. Will that for sure be a break, or might an event slip in on that weekend?
No, we are actually taking that week off. I think we're going to spend a few days in Glacier National. Um,
Park?
yeah,
Yep.
that place.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're going to spend a few days there, see all the sights, do all the fun stuff, and then we'll head over to the preserve.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Couple weekends then in the Midwest, seeing that you're doing the Preserve, the following weekend the Majestic, which is of course a very long-standing, iconic event, and then a couple weeks after that we'll have, or the very next weekend is actually then down in Des Moines.
So I see on July 12th you're doing another Q Series. Are you making it a point to hit most of these Q Series events, or is it just something that fits, that's slotted in appropriately for your tour?
To be honest, the Q series were very last minute add-ons. So we were originally going to play the 303 Open, which was a Q series before OTB. We decided not to because it just didn't sound the funnest to us. So we wanted to take an off week, slow roll to California. We did get, like, we spent a day in Denver, and then we went to Utah and to Tahoe and all of that. And then I think it was the week before OTB we decided to really play Shelton.
Okay.
Or that's when we signed up.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think we just signed up for Kansas City on Friday, maybe?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
All right.
Something. So we just decided it works with the schedule, so...
So it's nothing Q Series related. It's nothing to do with, obviously, the trying to hit the qualifiers or anything like that. It's just because these are events that are right there.
Yeah, geographically makes sense for you.
The Q Series does help
Okay.
with the decision to play them, but it really just fits in with the schedule, and we'll be around those areas.
Yeah, which I guess then answers the question. If you're doing the Q Series at Des Moines, I know that is actually the same weekend as Norway. The Krokel Open is that weekend. So then obviously you won't be playing in that. Are you guys then, you're not planning to go over to Europe to do the European Open or the Estonia event the following 2 weekends? Or are you maybe? Is that on the table?
Not this year.
Okay.
No. We kind of waited too late to logistically plan anything. So we're going to wait to plan and save up for it, our European trip for next year for Worlds.
Yep.
So we're thinking of doing, I think it's Des Moines and then KC, I believe.
It's KC.
Or is there something in between?
Yeah, Des Moines and then KC. Yeah. You're exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we're going to play KC. And then we're thinking right now of possibly going to Tulsa the weekend after and being around for Junior Worlds for the week.
Yep.
That would be fun.
Yeah, that would make perfect sense as well. Yeah, funny enough, I'm looking at that scheduling and timing as well, and I've thought the exact same thing, as if I'm not in Europe in any capacity, that the Junior Worlds is the place to be for sure. And if I'm not in Europe, that means I might be even in Kansas City as well. I know they're talking about trying to have coverage, and I know the Beehive is a Q Series event that is going to be on my channel, even though I'll be at Masters World. So lots of things going on. Is there anything that you want to dispel or answer? There's a lot of confusion running around with the Q Series, people playing it. I know directly or indirectly, even just a couple weeks ago when Holly Finley won the 303, people like indirectly were coming at her and trying to challenge her. Is there anything that you want to dispel or clarify for anyone out there?
Honestly, I haven't looked too far into the Q Series and like read about it as much, so I'm not 100%. I don't 100% know about how all of that works.
Okay.
Well, you're in third place in the Q Series right now.
Okay. See, I don't even know where I can
I know,
find
it's-
that information.
All right. Well, I just put a link in the chat to tell you guys at least where you can read about the Q series as it's all posted on the Disc Golf Pro Tour page. There's a ton of information, and again, once we're done chatting with you, we'll talk about a few more of the details that have been published out here. It's like I said, it's a topic of conversation that's out there, and I think it's largely misunderstood in terms of how it works. And so, even in coverage this weekend, someone's like, wait, I don't want to watch our existing superstars. Like the Q series is supposed to be the time for us to, see local or regional players trying to make it. And it's like, yeah, you can say that, but a couple thousand views tells us otherwise, that you really don't care about Joe Regional or Jane Regional as much as you say you do, or at least the rest of the world doesn't. So I think, yeah, it's a matter of strategy from the Pro Tour, and then also just the players, trying to pick and choose what makes most sense for them. And like you're saying, it's geographically, it just makes sense for you to be part of it. Mm-hmm. So, all right, Deann, before we let you go, we'd love to hear any accolades or thanks or shout outs or sponsors, and then also ways that people can follow, support you, and support your causes and everything that you're doing. Give us all the goods.
So first, I'll shout out my sponsors. Huge thanks to Lone Star Disc, Discology, Drive Bags, Zone Sporting Goods. And we also, me and AJ just got a new partnership that we just finished up everything with Bag Boy Golf. Okay. We're now pushing their disc golf carts. So shout out to them. Shelton was my first tournament with the cart, and it was great.
I smell a bonus, yeah, right off the bat.
So shout out to all my sponsors and everybody. Shout out to AJ, all of our friends that we hang out with that keep the tour life great. You can support me by getting one of my Tour Series curls from Lone Star Disc, mm-hmm. or me and AJ have a website, carrydiscgolf.com. We have a bunch of different disc and drive bags and other things on there. So if you're looking for anything Lone Star specific, you can get it on carrydiscgolf.com.
Awesome. I thank you for telling me that. I did not know that existed, and I just also linked to it in the chat so that people can go check it out. That's very cool. I didn't realize you guys had that up and running. So another way, and that's probably the easiest, most direct way for sure. Obviously, you want people to go support and purchase through sponsors and things of that nature. But if you want to go direct, looks like you can head right over to the website. Sweet.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to see all of the coverage. Obviously, we had a couple cameramen running around out there for the entire weekend, braving the conditions along with you. I was cooped up doing a lot of the editing, and over the next couple of days, we're going to get everything fully edited, fully released, so the world will be able to watch how it all unfolded.
See that phenomenal second round.
Yeah. No, they won't.
Oh, that's right. She was just off of coverage.
She pulled an Antala and went and had the hot round of the tournament off camera. I tell you.
The nerve of these people.
I know. But nonetheless, we got to see the best moments, which were the tournament wrapping up on. And real quick to that, I showed up and I watched 3 to 5-ish holes total for you guys on Sunday. I don't know if there's a card that could possibly have been having a better time. How does that happen? Even when you're whooping them, it seemed like everybody was still having a good time.
Hey, I wasn't whooping them at first.
Okay.
I had 7 strokes going into the last round, and Raven brought it within 1.
That's true.
Wow.
Okay, yeah.
I was scared.
All right. Well, don't tell her that. But you guys, man, it was awesome. Even the cameramen, of course, could pick up on how much fun. How are you guys having so much fun during such an intense round? Then at the same time,
it's just when you have a good card, we all have the good vibes, and we all like to laugh and joke around and just have fun. Not it helps you not really think about the disc golf so much when you're
Mm-hmm.
just having fun. It's like just having fun with your friends. So it actually brings the stress level down a lot.
Well, and to be fair, if they're not having fun or they make it unfun for you, you were handed an axe as you tap out on the 18th. Like, there should be some factor in that alone. Like, were you happy or sad that the axe was of a different style than what Kat was given last year? She had like a 4-foot handle and apparently was walking around with it during the MPO round. Are you happy or sad that yours is a little bit more manageable?
More of a hatchet?
Yeah, more of a hatchet size.
A, for storage in the RV,
Uh-huh.
I am a lot happier that it
Okay.
is smaller.
Uh-huh.
But I think mine's a little more useful.
I was just going to ask that. Will you take that out of the holster, so to speak? And you guys camp. You think it'll come in handy?
Hey, it might come out at Milo next week.
Okay.
Start a campfire. You got to
Uh-huh.
split the wood. So maybe.
Yep. Yeah, there's nothing better than that. Like getting out, you're at the campsite and you're like, hey guys, I got this. And then you show up, you take the hatchet out that you just won, you're flexing on them in a little way, and then you're chopping up some, like, I don't know. That's all, that screams power move all day long. So, and if they don't like it, well, you've
got the hatchet.
You've got the hatchet still. It's in your possession. All right, Deann. Well, thank you so much. I know you guys were busy traveling and then also getting your tons of long practice rounds in, and I came at you this afternoon to ask you to join, and I really appreciate you being gracious with your time, and we thank you very much for joining us. And with that, best of luck this weekend and the rest of the tour, and hopefully I'll be finding other ways to interview you out at the course, because that means you're probably doing something right.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on.
Of
Always.
course.
Thanks
All
a
right.
lot,
Have a
Deann.
good night, and I'm going to try to never make you mad as long as you own that hatchet. So.
But, no, yeah, her and Kat.
Exactly. Don't come after us. All right. Have a good night. Congrats
Thanks,
again.
Deann. Or as someone called her on the board, DX.
DX
Carey.
Yeah.
She's got DX.
She does. So impressive. Yeah. Jeff Korn's TD was telling me how last year they had handed Cat merch, like a 4-foot handled, axe,
like a full-fledged
you typically
axe.
see. And apparently she didn't put it down for like the rest of the day. And I would say for at home in that case.
I mean, if you're traveling quite a bit and you're looking to make firewood or kindling, like
Sure.
Deann's going to be great for the kindling with the smaller axe, and then Kat's got the bigger axe for if you're going to be cutting up some good-sized logs. Yeah.
So just getting pulled over. Any weapons? No. Just
the
a
axe.
little hatchet here, hand hatchet. Again, congrats yet again. So many great vibes just overall from this weekend, and this weekend perfectly embodies why I still love post-production weekends for myself in terms of experiencing what's happening and seeing some of these courses and these properties that I otherwise may not be getting to, or that I don't get to see them firsthand. Yes, I know this got played last year, and there's plenty of people that feel exactly as I do, and they felt it a year ago, and that's awesome. Now, however, if we see more activity, especially on an Elite Series level, I'm that much more now familiar and personally intimate with the course. So even if I don't go there and I happen to be hosting in a booth or whatever, just to have that experience, to meet so many of the club members and a ton of fans that came out and experienced what was going on this weekend. And then, as I mentioned, both the guys both have roots that were local in terms of the camera operators that I had, and it was just awesome. So congrats to them. Let's quickly read through our top finishers in both FPO and MPO, though.
Certainly. As we said, our guest tonight, Deann Carey, wins by shooting a 12 under par, taking home $2,000. She bested Raven Klein by 7, but as we heard, Raven got within 1.
It was closer.
It was a lot closer. That final round is going to be fire. Third place, Cat Merch with the other axe, last year's axe. Fourth place, Holly Finley. Fifth place, Stacy Ronsley. Sixth place, Emily Yale. Seventh place, Kona Star Montgomery. Eighth is Brittany Lehman Snyder. Ninth, Julie Moans. And 10th, Sophia Donachie. So congratulations to our top 10 in the FPO field. Moving up over to MPO, another guy who had the hot round off camera, as you said.
Jerk.
Nicholas Antala wins this one by 10 strokes over Chandler Kramer and Ezra Robinson, who both tied for second place. A tie for fourth place between Una Heinonen and Kevin Kiefer. A tie for sixth place, Nicola Castro, Chandler Fry. And a big old tie for eighth place between Nicholas Culver, Aaron Gossage, Alden Harris, Christopher Robbins, and Carter Aarons. So congratulations to your top 10 in MPO. All of which, not true, I was about to say, all of which get Q Series points. Not all of them get Q Series points.
Correct.
Because the Q Series points only go to people who do not or are not yet qualified for a 2025 tour card. So you can find all that info on the DGPT site for how it works. And if you're looking for the stats, the rankings, you can go to Statmando under their rankings area. They have a whole thing for the Q Series. Like I was telling our guest Deann, right now there's the Q Series for FPO. She's in third place because she got 100 points. Mm-hmm. I believe first place is 100, second place is 85, and then probably another 15. It probably goes down or scales, something like that. First place right now is Madeline Davis with 145 points. She's competed in 2 events. Second place is, I'm going to go with Maddie Camacho. It's Mayte, so.
Never seen that before.
Neither have I, so I kind of want to say Matey, but like, I'm going to go with Maddie Camacho. She's in second place. She has 112 points with 2 events. And I believe those are the only players that have played 2 events. So they are clearly ranked at the top. But in third place, you've got Deann Carey, then Erica Weir, Chrissy Fountain, Raven Klein, Des Redding, Kelly Foster, so on and so on and so on. You can see, and these will obviously, we've only had 2, I believe, 2 Q Series events so far.
No, there's been
there's been 3.
I was going to say there's been at least 3 because down at Sprinkle Valley, yes, which was also then during the weekend of the Women's Global, that's where we saw like Chrissy Fountain and
that's right,
Des Redding get their points. Also, then the 303 Open was a Q Series, as she was just talking about as well a few moments ago.
Sure.
So,
and over on MPO, Colton Montgomery has the lead in the Q Series. He's played 2 events. We've got a handful of people that have played 2 events, but second place, Joe Revere, GT Hancock, Chandler Kramer, Alexander Kraus, Freddie Meza, Noah Baker, Una Heinonen, etc., etc., etc. So, yeah, if you want to figure out the Q Series, you can go to dgpt.com and read all about it. Yeah, I mean, as you said, I think a lot of people think that this is for people trying to qualify for the Disc Golf Pro Tour, and it can be, but it's also just a big A tier. It's just a big event. The Q Series it's almost like tacked on, and I don't want to diminish it by any means, but it is an extra set of series points that will be played. I'm curious as to see how many non-touring people, non-touring pros play more than a handful of these.
Sure.
You know, we see a lot of these, like the Kansas City Wide Open, and like it hits on certain tour stops. But I would be hard-pressed to know if there's a handful of people in the long run that play more than 2 or 3 of these that aren't regional to them, that aren't within a 4 to 5 hour drive. You know, is someone like, and I know he's not, but Joe Revere, that type of person, would he go and play multiple events trying to get your Tour Series card at the end of the season? I mean, we know Joe isn't because...
Yeah, it doesn't appear to be the case.
That's not for him, at least. But we'll see as this kind of settles out in the next few months, when we see more of them, how many people are actually playing them to qualify for the Q Series.
Yeah, and as we just said, I posted a few. I posted the links to the stats where you can find them on both Statmando for MPO and FPO. I just put that in the chat as well. I'll try to I'm going to put that in the notes later. And then the overall information, dgpt.com/q-series is where all the info is. It talks about all the rules, the eligibilities, the awarding tour cards and silver cards, the qualification for and format for the final, for the finale, all those types of things.
Where's the finale this year?
Is
that the one in Florida? Is that Jacksonville?
Yeah, southeast, and I believe it is in fact in Florida. Here's the schedule.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I'm covering the last regular event, at least on my channel, the Mary Sunshine House Classic, Huck Central. That is taking place November 8th through the 10th, and then there's another event. So then there's the 2024 Jacksonville Open. And that's happening the following weekend, and then the weekend after that, the Q Series finale is listed at Olympus at the old Throwdown the Mountain course, otherwise known as Olympus. So,
all right, I didn't see the one.
Neither did I.
I didn't know the one at Olympus. I knew the final. I saw the last one in
was
Jacksonville, and that's what I thought originally. But okay, so Olympus will be the finale. Well,
that's so just to put them out there, especially since we're now into it as far as we are, the Beehive Classic, which is going to be also on my channel. Becoming like the Q Series queen. The Beehive Classic is going to be ultimately recorded and then released on my channel. Then Kansas City Wide Open is a Q Series. Discraft CCR Open is a Q Series, and that's been a very popular event for many years. The Diameter Open, and then the Main State Championships, and then the Mary Sunshine House, the Jacksonville Open, and then the finale. So, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more Q Series events spanning the next 5 or so months. I'll
be curious to see if we actually at Olympus, if there, I know it's the finale, but whether there's actually going to be a storyline for people that come out. Are people going to go out of their way if you're near possibly touring? I mean, are you going to go out of your way for the Q Series finale?
Yeah.
To try to qualify for that?
Yeah, like you were just saying, we're not going to see Joe Revere, even if he gets as many possible points as he can in the next 1 or 2 events that he might be part of, or none. But even if he's leading, like he's not going to go to the finale and try to earn a tour card because he's not planning on touring.
That's not his style. He's just going to continue to win Masters World Championships over and over.
No, we're going to find out. We're going to find out in another couple weeks. I'm super excited about that. Webb Warren on the board says the disc golf guy needs to launch his own shirt line. They've been a little jealous of his attire over the last several weeks. I appreciate that. Funny enough, a conversation of that exact nature not only has been kind of thrown around for the last couple of years, but then someone who could very much help make it happen is a gentleman that I'm friends with that I've seen the last couple of years in Thailand. And maybe I should check in with him because we had that conversation when I was leaving Chiang Mai, the idea of some kind of
clothing
or shirt line. And I've certainly have ideas. I certainly do.
Let's go through. That's awful, Terry. Let's go through just a couple more of the A-tiers that were in the United States this year, and maybe one overseas. We'll see. The Rumble was this weekend. Winning that one was Paul Kranz, besting Ben Calloway, Andy Wacha. I'm going to call him Wacha. I like that better.
Walk it out.
Exactly. And also tied for third was Tony Morais. Over on the FPO side, we see Lexi Marks win this with Lauren Butler in second place. So congratulations.
And Batman
Dutch
takes down the MP40 division. Congratulations to Batman. Looks like it was him in a battle with him and Chris Sprague.
Oh, yeah, those two.
Can't they both be winners? Come on.
I got to see Chris Sprague a few weeks ago, and it gave him a world's biggest hug, and it was nice to catch up with him just for a few moments. We were on our way out to our individual holes before a tournament, so it was good to see Chris. The 2024 Rocket City Blast, sponsored by Westside. Yeah, this one's out of Huntsville, Alabama. Greg Barsby takes this one in a playoff with Thunder Schultz. Another one of those Schultz brothers. In third place, Johnny McRae. by a single stroke, so that the leaders were at 23 and Johnny was at 22. Over on the FPO side, Cadence Burge wins this one. She wins $1,000. And second place was Shelby Cohen, who looks like she declined cash. So it went to the third place finisher out of 3 who won $340. So what a great way... if you're Michaela Collins and you took last place, but you still cashed the second place amount, props to you.
Not a bad weekend.
Not a bad weekend. Doesn't matter.
Shelby FPO. Shelby must be playing in Am Worlds. It would be our guess if you click on it.
More
because that'd be the only reason for her to turn down.
She's an amateur, and you can.
She could be even playing in Junior Worlds. Yes, signed up for Junior Worlds. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Well, best of luck to you at Junior Worlds, Shelby.
So that would make sense for potentially be turning down some of that money.
And finally, we're going to talk about the Auburn Open. I was going to talk about Nokia, but honestly, there wasn't a.
Plus, those are a lot of hard names to read.
Stop it, Terry Miller. Stop it.
Did I read right through that one?
Maybe. We're going to look at the Auburn Open over in Auburn, California.
Go with the 8-letter name.
Yeah, it's right. Matt Bell. Matt Bell wins this by a single stroke over James Proctor. Third place, Raven Newsom. Fourth place, Parker Welk. Wandering down to the FPO. Oh, I'm sorry, there was no FPO at this event. It was just, it's going down to MP40. So congratulations to we'll go FP40. Congratulations to Juliana Corver, who wins this
Squeaks
over
it out.
Christy King.
Squeaking it out by 17.
Just barely.
Congrats.
Christy shot the better third round. That's what should matter. That's what should determine the whole event. Who cares about those other rounds? So yeah, those are your A tiers in the world this particular year.
All right, or weekend.
No, this
Twice
year.
you said year.
Oh well, this year.
You said it earlier.
It is
like when you led into them, and I was like, okay.
It is this year.
It is this year.
Technically, I'm not wrong.
Speaking of opportunities this year and this last weekend, big shout out, and most of you have already said it somewhere on the internet. Thank you to Alden Harris. To me, no surprise that he was good, but he was very, very well received doing co-commentary with me this weekend. And
that's nice.
Big thanks to him. Not only did he do a great job, and it was very well received, and people loved his insights and everything about that he brought to the table, but equally as important to me was his flexibility in terms of driving 10, 15 minutes, but coming over to start the commentary around like 10:30, 11 o'clock each night. And I've said it a million times over the last 14 years here. When post-production happens, there's a whole slew of reasons why things get done the way they do. I say all the time that often when solo commentary by myself gets done, that's mostly out of logistics. And that was exactly the backup to the backup to the backup plan of possibly having to pull off this weekend. But Alden graciously said, yes, I will be up late and I will be willing to come over to make it happen. I had also, in full transparency, at one point I had also talked to Aaron Gossage, who was very well received earlier in the year as well. Would have loved having him too. But Aaron was a full hour from where I was. He was west of the course by 30 minutes. I was east of the course by 30 minutes. And so when we've had the day that we've had, the last thing I want to do is either have him drive to me or, even worse, me pack up everything and then drive to some other location to do that. And so the fact that Alden was kind of asked on the spot and then knocked it out of the park, I couldn't be happier about. So big shout out to Alden. And to be fair, as much as I know I'll have Alden again on another event, I'm sure, I love dabbling in experimenting with a bunch of different people.
And that's what I was going to go ahead and say, was that it's nice. Like, I know you just, obviously, you've had Alden on before, I believe, right?
No.
Oh, no,
you
you had Gannon on.
We've had Gannon. I've had Ricky. I've had a dozen different co-commentators.
But it is nice to get a variety. I mean, these, whether they like it or not, these guys are maybe trying out for future careers.
100%.
You know, in the media when they're done. I mean, there's this pie in the sky thing that everybody thinks that the minute you step on the course and you're mildly good at something, whether it's sideline commentating like Zach Melton had or doing post-production, everyone just right away, for whatever it seems like, oh, that guy's got to get hired. The Pro Tour has to hire him. But these people might have future careers if they want in media. And Alden has shown an interest in YouTube and things like that with his channel. So it's,
Yeah, so it was great to have him. I will continue to, we've had Silas Schultz. I've had Silas on the channel. He was well received. I think even prior to that, on the FPO side, obviously that's where Madison and Erica, the two hot geese, were officially contrived way back in the day. I think of a Cynthia Ricciotti who was on coverage, and just a whole slew of FPO, MPO, and other divisional players that have been on my channel. And yes, sometimes it is spawned out of initial convenience, but then for these players to kind of get a taste of it. And some have said, oh, I really like that, or I didn't like that, or they can see if they're well received and all those other things. And if anything, it's hey, I tried it out for one round or for one weekend, and I may or may not have interest in it in the future. And it's one of the favorite things that I try to continue to do at so many different events and give you guys a little different perspective and some different personalities. And it was also funny too. It was funny / awkward. Is we had Ezra round 1 coverage, Ezra Robinson. We had Ezra round 2 coverage. Alden was not on either of those cards, and Ezra and Alden showed up to the hotel room as they're staying together. So Alden had the opportunity with the mic in hand to say whatever he wanted about Ezra and Ezra's game and Ezra's play, and Ezra just kind of had to sit there and listen to it while he was also in the room. So that added another funny element. And I feel like there's so many sports where we don't have those opportunities. So I'm glad we did.
Did Ezra have to drive Alden there or something?
They're just hanging out.
They're just hanging out.
They're staying at the same place together.
Yeah.
So it was just a matter of, I'll come along with you. And, Ezra didn't have anything else he had to be worried about.
He didn't have to drive like 1,000.
No, he already completed
1,500 miles
we
or
had
something.
That talk. Yeah.
Oh God, I'd love to hear that story. Well, there was someone asked about a Schwebby update, and I don't have an update on how he did this weekend. But what I do have is a follow-up to last week where you and I were discussing events and numbers. I want to shout out to Evan, who got me this information from the PDGA.
Over at StatMando. Schwebby right now is your leader with the number of events played at 867, and there are 100 people who have played 400 plus PDGA events. Like exactly 100. I'm reading the stat. That's kind of funny.
I think that's about 100.
Okay.
I think that's about 100 people.
Okay.
And your top 4 that he was given is
100 that have played 400.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Go on.
But nobody's played 1,000. Correct. That was our discussion last week. Nobody's played 1,000. So Schwebby leading at 867. Second, Raul Alvarez has played 804 events with 205 wins. Third place, Scott Innes at 796 PDGA events with 157 wins. And someone that was mentioned last week in fourth place is Fred Neham, who's played 765 events with 548 wins. Again, its division makes a difference, the number of players he's beat. But still, you can only be who shows up. Congratulations to Fred. Mm-hmm. And I think a name that you maybe threw out last week in fifth place, Mike Mosier, 720 events with 293 wins. Those are all people that have played 400. Well, those are not all. Those are your top 5 people that have played 400 plus PDGA events.
And let me follow that up. Mike Mosier has 293 wins, as you just said, out of 720 events. I'm going to say 293 of those wins, as in every single one of them, was probably within a pro division, MPO or MP40 or whatever.
They weren't keeping track when he was playing amateur.
And that's kind of my point, and maybe partially, but also of those 293, again, now I'm already starting to think about more stats that get extrapolated. Of those 293, I'm just going to guess, if I know Mike, and I know the area, and I know Mike, and his longevity, 3 or less, it's sub 3, it may be 0, 3 or less of those are flex start wins.
Probably.
Out of 293. Yeah. And this is only for context, that when you look at a Raul or a Fred, who has 765 events, 548 wins, I'm going to venture to guess, of his 765 events, 500 are flex starts.
Yep.
And then you look at Mike, who has 293 wins out of 720 events, and I'm just guessing, and Statmando would have to do the math. I'm going to guess, though, of those two. Well, I could just do it.
You could. A couple other notable names on this list.
Naming them off, though. We talked about some of these names last week, right?
Yeti, who was in 11th place at 632 events. Barry Schultz, 630 events.
Okay.
A tie in 13th. I don't know who she's tied with, but it says tied for 13th. Elaine King at 606 events.
Okay.
Stevie Rico, 589. In 18th place, Paul Ulibarri at 588. 25th place, Johnny McRae at 550 events. Nico in 31st place with 514. And Michael Johansson, 507 wins in 32nd place. So there's a few notable names and people that have racked up a ton of PDGA events. So just a little bit of follow-up. Don't say we never follow up. We don't usually, but thanks to Evan at Statmando and the PDGA.
No, I saw your timestamp of when that came in. You really nailed that follow-up.
This came in today.
I know, that's what I mean. It's for like minutes before we started the show, right?
No, 8:44 a.m.
Okay. Okay. And I'm not
Terry,
discrediting you. You did more follow-up than I did.
We start our shows at 8 p.m. anyway, so this would have been 45 minutes. Well, yeah. So
no, nice work. And again, 100% of the gratitude and thanks goes to Evan.
Evan reached out to me like 2 or 3 days ago, and he was like, he's like,
so he did the follow-up.
Oh God, 100%. He reached out to me.
Thank you, Evan. We love you.
He's like, hey, I just I dropped your and Terry's request into our your last episode into our thing, and I was like, our request? What request? I had no clue. No clue what it was about. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then he brought it up, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. We were totally talking about that.
We were just talking out of our ass.
100%.
And then Evan took it and ran with it.
Evan took it and
we need more of those people. Because there's some things we do, and then there's everything else that other people do.
You talk so much, you just literally forget what you talk about sometimes.
Well, that is really interesting info. So thank you so much. And no, I don't have a perfect way to determine, as I was looking at Mike Mosier, because it doesn't necessarily say it's a flex start within the title of these, but as I'm scrolling through, well, even the fact that so many of them are pre 20 whatever 18, I don't know when flex starts officially started coming into being a thing, but yeah, very, very impressive, of course, nonetheless. Wow, one A tier.
Is Mosier in the Hall of Fame?
If he's not, he's got to be.
I don't know.
This world. If he's obviously, if he's not, he absolutely needs to be. But I'm pretty sure he is.
I don't know.
He is not officially.
I mean, to be fair, Stokely's not in the Hall of Fame yet either. And
true.
And I mean, if you're going to pick between, if you had to pick between those two people, I think I would throw Stokely in there first. But Mosier has also been, as we know, has been around forever. All the wins, just a very early builder of our sport.
Yeah, that is actually surprising. It's funny that it took me a second.
That's why I didn't remember his name in the years I've looked at it, and I was like,
I guess that makes Well, I mean, and to be fair, he's only so old too. You gotta be 45 to even be. He's of that age.
He qualifies
now, I know,
there, Tare.
I'm just saying.
We all love the guy, but let's not give him too much credit.
We know that he'll be there. That is.
I think it makes a lot of sense.
That is a foregone conclusion that he will be there. That's for sure. All right. So yeah, Alden Harris. And then another amazing storyline from this weekend was that on Thursday, I was out at the course talking with Jeff Corns, kind of getting a lay of the land. And a gentleman came up and said, "Hey, thank you guys for the event and everything going on. Super excited about it. He said it was nice to meet me and all this stuff, and was very kind and gracious and sweet, for lack of a better term. Super excited about the event. Introduces himself. He tells us his name is Matt. And then I forgot how it was said, but he said something along the lines of watching coverage and being excited. I said, "Okay, well, we'll see you on lead card coverage. We'll see you on there. You're not on feature card round 1, but we'll see you there round 2." Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, sure as shit.
Wow.
Matt goes out and has an incredible opening round and finds himself on the lead card after round number 1.
Congratulations.
Yeah, talk about manifesting it. So the hot score round 1 came in from Antala, where he shot a 14 under.
Yeah, that was that crazy 11.
And then Ezra Robinson shot a 10 under. And then Matt Bloom Edmonds, who pretty much goes by just Matt Bloom, he says. He's in the Coast Guard. Super nice guy, just really just lovable spirit, everything about him. Regional player that doesn't has aspirations of being on the tour, and he goes and shoots himself onto the lead card, and then ultimately goes to the chase card for the 3rd round. But he was another one of those stories from this weekend where it's just awesome, because everyone's like, "Who's this guy?" Which is fair. I mean, even he would say that. But you see him on lead card 2nd round. He's in the mix with Carter Aarons, Ezra Robinson, and Antala. And then there's Matt.
guys that have 2 names, and then there's Matt.
Yeah, then there's Matt. And it was just awesome. And he held his own. He comes out with back-to-back birdies on the first 2 holes, takes the cart or takes the box from everybody. And it was just absolutely awesome. And so Matt, thank you for your service. But
yes.
Perfect
weekend for him.
Yeah, it was really cool. I think he said he's 7 years into the Coast Guard. That's his career. He's got roots in Michigan, and I think his significant other is originally from Illinois. Okay. And so he's been here. He's played Gray Fox and Silver Fox. He's played some of the courses around here. And then little did I know, until I was
usually
told,
little you know.
I know that Matt also just a few weeks ago had won a tournament out there at Shelton Springs. Shocker, same course. 3 weeks ago, Mark Hill was running the tournament, one of our favorite Smashies out there, and Matt won that event. So, whooping up on that Deann Arlen character even. So, what a cool story and absolutely awesome to see. And with that, again, another little nugget from this weekend. Got to share not only seeing the course and getting some insight, but also share some time and a beverage with Mark out there.
Oh, with Mark Hill.
Yeah. Right. So that was awesome. Good to see you, Mark. I know you had other plans this weekend, and he wasn't around the entire weekend. But Mark, along with the rest of the crew and the club and everyone else, helped keeping Shelton Springs the premier course that it is. There's a single basket location on every hole, and then I believe every single hole has, I think now, 3 tee pads. They've got red, white, and blue tee pads out there. So there's something for everyone to go out and experience that course. So pretty awesome to see. All right.
Was it? I'm guessing someone spilled some beans, or maybe it hasn't been announced. MPO World's commentary is going to be you, Climo, and Doss?
Yeah, I knew that.
I didn't know that. I didn't care, but I didn't know that either.
Well, you're not smart.
I'm not doing any coverage on it, so that's awesome, because I don't think you've ever done live commentary with Kenny. Well, I mean, maybe way back in the day a little bit, back when it was the Planet.
Disc Golf Planet. We may have walked around, or I feel like
I got to do commentary with Kenny.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know why you're not in there, but
I don't know either, Terry. I'll make a call or two.
Yeah, I don't know if that is. I don't know if that was public news or not.
I don't know. I'm guessing Mr. Doss probably talked about it tonight. So.
Okay, well then he told everybody.
Yeah, so we're sharing it. We didn't spill it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I had heard as well. That was kind of the plan.
That's phenomenal. I'm excited for you.
Yeah, so I think that should be a lot of fun.
Can't wait to watch post-production.
It'll be slightly a different just dynamic, because obviously the few times we've had Kenny on live, Kenny has been with Ian and Philo.
Yeah.
And so not only is Kenny getting a different host than me, he's also getting a different color commentator in Nate. So yeah, it's going to be great. Nate played plenty of golf with Climo back in the day, obviously. And I think it should be a lot of fun.
So we're going to have a 12-time world champ,
Yep.
a 3-time world champ,
and
glow world champ.
Glow world champ. You got it. And a speed putting world
and a speed putting world champion. Yeah. So I mean, you've got 2 world championships under your belt. You're not quite to the DOS level yet.
No.
Which is why you're doing, play-by-play. You don't get to do the color yet.
Yes.
Once you get
that.
You haven't earned that. Maybe once you get one more world championship under your belt.
Well, and I think that's funny, because this weekend there was of course talk about DOS and playing in Beaver State and all these other things.
Yeah, we discussed that last week a little bit.
Yeah, and just so many people don't recognize how DOS is a 3-time world champ. Think about the list of multiple-time world champions we have, even. How small that list is. And if you ever want to be dismissive of how his credentials in terms of how he's played golf, you're just being ignorant at that point.
As someone else said, he's rated higher than Paul Macbeth right now.
Given. So what does that say?
What does that say? Nothing, but
nothing at the moment, because his rating is dated back to 2018. I'm guessing, which is the last time he had a rated round. So, yeah, and I get it. We all know everyone has their preferences for commentators, myself included, and who does or doesn't like me, and everyone else, and every commentator really within the lineup. Because I've seen negative about literally every single commentator in some capacity. But when
I've got a lot of handles that I post out there.
When it comes to the playing accolades, if you're at all second guessing the capabilities of DOS, you're just, or his accomplishments is better. Obviously his capabilities have always been great. What he's going to do moving forward and the limited play he's going to have, that's obviously to be determined. But his accolades and his accomplishments, and a side note to that is Nate has been very clear and concise with me throughout the years and with others. He cared about major titles. He cared about playing in the biggest events against the best players.
Yeah.
And he was a very early adopter of, even though he was on the road and on tour full time and playing full time, he didn't play every event to just to fill in a weekend, or just to go out and maybe even play in a lesser field or none of those. He would play in events. He cared about the national tour and he cared about the majors. Those are what he cared about most. Of course, he tried to pick up other wins and he played other events, but his focus for many years was almost exclusively, those are the things that he cared the most about. And I love seeing players go out and play 20 or 30 events in a year, and I'm not discouraging any of that. And they care about, pro tour wins and majors, of course. But Nate really exclusively cared about those. I think if he had 50 other A tiers, he just doesn't even care about them. But he didn't give himself nearly as many opportunities. Look at that. He wasn't even in the top, the top 10 or 20 or whatever you just listed for events played. He didn't play a ton of events. So the fact that he still ultimately has 3 world titles is very impressive. As Mark says, Matt Bloom won the Shelton Springs. He certainly did. Climo's won a few worlds. Yeah. He's done okay for himself.
Terry, do you have anything that you wanted to talk about this week? Is there any news, or I know you discussed you were obviously over at the Q Series event. We discussed that. Was there anything else that tripped your trigger this week?
The other cool thing, and I'll try and find it and then put it in the chat as well, and maybe some of you have seen it. I feel like it was kind of buried at the time. Kristin released not only a new logo.
I love the new logo.
But even better, I wonder, we could just probably run it. There is like a 3 to 4 minute backstory to her working with her ad agency or with the media agency to create the logo and what's gone into it and everything that goes with it. It's just awesome. It's awesome that it was documented. It's awesome that the story was given and the reasoning and the logic and how they arrived at it and things they did. This is coming from the ad agency.
Yeah, there's
a marketing agency.
For audio listeners, there's a bunch of different logos out on our screen right now. And one of the things I most absolutely love, and they went through all these different branding. You can see the two Ks back and forth, which is what they ended up looking like on some clothing, but just the K logo I love. Just the K. Like, not KT, just K. And I think that's different than some of the clothing that she's got, which is phenomenal. Honestly, I love the design.
Yeah, and I just put a link in Johnny showing some of the actual photos, but I also just put a link. There is a video that they released. She put it up on her YouTube page, which is also relatively new, so to speak, and it's titled "Crafting My New Brand, Kristin Tattar, New Way Agency."
Again, we've seen so many people try to take both their initials and find a way to intertwine them, and it looked like they tried that at first, and I'm so glad they didn't do it. I am so glad that it was just...
Are you saying that just because she's going to get married and she may or may not take on...
I have no clue about that, about whether or not she,
she becomes a lot?
Whether she becomes a lot or not.
Lot?
But just the K. Just the K I think is perfect. I mean, a lot of people know, K also means 1,000, which I think is kind of clever, but I don't know if there was that much read into it. I'd have to watch that video, which I haven't seen yet. I did see the logos, but just I think the logo is simple and elegant, and that's it.
Yeah, again, you guys need to click on it, but they talk about the color scheme, they talk about the lotus, they talk about birds, all of the things that got put into it, and the K, the logo or her K, as those are feathers, and of course that talks about integration with birds and flight, and even what the birds, how the birds themselves relate. Yeah, it's all very interesting to see, and it is out there. And then you're going to see a lot more from her clothing line, which is something that I think is what we've seen up from a lot of manufacturers is, I'll say they have taken somewhat advantage of players' branding, right? If you wanted to go get a Paul McBeth jersey or something like that, you're probably going to Discraft's page or teamdiscraft.com, and you're getting the AB jersey, you're getting the Aaron Gossage, you're getting their jerseys that are directly tied in that way. Kristin, it does not appear, with the branding that's just been released in the storyline, it does not appear that you're going to go to Latitude 64 to buy this stuff. You're going to go to a website that's specific to Kristin. Just kind of like we were talking with Deann and AJ Carey a few moments ago about them having stuff on their personal website. I think that's kind of what you're going to see Kristin continue to develop here. So it's of note that it's not like co-branded or under the Latitude 64 umbrella. Correct. And I think that's of note for good, bad, or otherwise.
Well, and we've also
seen...
But
it keeps your branding, because think about Simon and Discmania.
That's exactly where I was going to go with that, is that's, when Simon left Discmania, and this is, I believe, the final year of her contract with Latitude. So there's a possibility maybe she goes somewhere else. Maybe there's a possibility she stays with Latitude. I mean, obviously anything's open. I mean, who knows who's going to offer what to her, but she's going to be a hot commodity as far as a player goes. And I truly hope that that clothing line is available over in the U.S. I hope that it's available to young women as well, like smaller girls.
Sure.
People that will look up to her, that maybe want to play the sport or are interested in the sport, are juniors and things like that. That it's not just I'll say older women, which makes it sound different.
Adult women.
Adult women, thank you. Adult women's line. I hope they do offer
mature women.
I hope they do offer that to in junior sizes as well.
I am sure they will take full advantage of all of those things you just said. They certainly should be. So
it says her website. Carney's saying her website ships worldwide.
Yeah,
that's great. I'm gonna have to go and take a look at it.
Yeah, not surprising. So check out the link. I put it in there in terms of the video and just the explanation behind everything that she broke down. I watched it while I was at the airport last night. I was like, yeah, this is so spot on. Webb says, take notes, Terry. Just T for your line. Also, what I'll take note of is I'm guessing that this company, New Way, is 10 times the budget. No. 100 times the budget of what will go into my graphic line and design and energy and effort. Clearly a professional agency through and through out of Estonia. It's incredible. All of it. I love it. So that was of note, and I felt like so far it's kind of gone under the radar. I just saw it last night myself. I saw the logo, but then the story. I love the it's like a 3 or 5 minute video. So it's worth it's 5 minutes and 13 seconds. It's worth going out and consuming.
If it were shorter, we'd play it here, but I don't want to do the full 5 minutes here. And it's best if you can see it anyway. So a lot of our listeners are audio.
So very cool. I didn't have any other notes that obviously came to mind. As I mentioned with Deann a little while ago, plan is to have all 3 of the FPO rounds start to unfold over the next few days in terms of the event from this weekend. Hats off. I'll use the direct comparison from a few weeks ago. I don't know how many people that Gatekeeper had in Las Vegas for them to film FPO in the morning and MPO in the afternoon and then get them essentially released both next day. Here's what I can promise you, it was more than 3. And that is such a tall task that requires so many more resources. And ultimately I worked it out with Jeff Corns and the TD that we said, hey, well, let's for sure get something out next day. We went with the MPO first, and now we're going to get FPO out for you guys to consume. So just so everyone knows, and a few people have posted and said, where's the coverage? It's all coming. So yeah, I don't think I have anything else of any.
Okay, we can wrap this up.
Yeah,
and go
we can wrap this up,
after
and then
show.
when other stuff strikes me, it gets brought up in the after show. Sound good?
That sounds great, Terry.
Yeah, it does. You better believe it does. With that, we want to thank our champion in Deann Carey. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I did also at one point reach out to Niklas. He said he had plans that he could not move or shift or break for tonight, but he absolutely would love to join us on the show. So at some point, we'll certainly have him join us. And I mean, if the guy keeps winning, it makes it even that much more obvious, but we'll take him anytime. So I appreciate him getting back to me and just saying that tonight was already a little bit too booked up for him. But thank you to Niklas, and congrats to him. Congrats to everyone over at the event for pulling off a very successful weekend. It was awesome to see. Oh, I need to also get my quick note in here before we close it out?
Okay. I'm
going to back up to Kristin again. Go listen to how she opens that video and tell me if I pronounce her name closer to that or if you pronounce it correctly.
The Tattar?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go listen to it. Just thought I'd get that in there.
All right.
It just hit me. I listened to it. This first jumps right off. She introduces herself, and it sounds a lot more closely like how Charlie and I say her name than the rest of the world.
Well, and Charlie took notes from you who went out.
And I'm not claiming I'm saying it perfectly.
No. It's almost
far closer than everyone else has been doing it, including me of old school.
Yeah, with our accents and what we have, it's very difficult for us to say 100%.
To get it perfect. Yes.
You can get get as close as you can.
Just go listen to that. I can't wait till the next person that posts and says how I say it so incorrectly. I will absolutely link to those first 3 seconds of that video when she introduces herself.
All right,
I'm fired up. For Johnny V,
should have saved it for the after
disc golf
show.
Guy. I'll bring it up there too. For Johnny V, I'm the disc golf guy. Congrats again to Deann Carey, your champion at the Cascade Challenge. We'll take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll have some after show action. We'll see you then. You step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxxTV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV Podcast 508's After Show.
After show.
Is this your Finnish or Estonian?
Doesn't matter. If I say one, I might offend the other. So you read into
they
it.
derive Estonian language is like loosely derived from some Finnish, and there's some carryover and overlap. Not entirely and exclusively, but there is a little bit of carryover from what I understand. Anyway, welcome in. It's the after show. Man, by the time this wraps up, no, we'll get it done. We'll get it done in time. I was going to say we got to get a birthday shout out into one AJ Carey, whose wife was just on our regular show talking about the Cascade.
Well, even if we
challenge.
finish, it's not going to be it over there.
What I will follow up with is some excitement and a much-needed break, I believe, for the tournament director from this last weekend, and this was pre-planned, taking his honeymoon time, and Jeff Corns, along with his newlywed of a few months ago, are heading to Japan. I think they're probably maybe even on a flight as we speak, heading to Japan.
That's cool.
For a couple of weeks to take it in. And I don't know if it was just last week where I was talking about Aaron Doyle is in Japan right now, who's just hanging out. And we know that Germ and Nate Sexton were also just there. All three going for all three sets of people going for somewhat different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Nate and Germ were there to do some clinics and stuff that Innova had presented to them, I believe. And Aaron's just there hanging out. He just happens to be a golfer that's visiting and taking it all in. And now Jeff and his wife heading over there for check out some Disney, I think, over there.
Okay.
He also said they're huge. He's I don't know if one or both of them are huge Pokemon enthusiasts. So they're going to be taking in some of that. And there's I don't even think he knew this at the time. He was saying that there is like a Pokemon convention of sorts going on when he's going this week.
Oh, that would be awesome.
So just the madness that has to be sounds really exciting for someone that's into it.
We've family wise, we've talked about, maybe next year going on another bigger trip. This last year, I mean, we did Niagara Falls, which isn't necessarily a big trip. It was a road trip. And I was trying to convince, I was like, maybe we can go overseas to Europe next year. And obviously with Worlds being over there, it would make sense. It would be fun to go over there. And my wife obviously rolled her eyes and she's like, of course, there's a big tournament over there. And I'm like, yeah. And my son chimed in. He's like, I think Japan would be cool. And I was like, oh yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun. I think we could have, we could definitely maybe think about that. And that's when he brought up, he's like, they got like the Pokemon like mall there, don't they? I was like, yeah, they've got like the world's largest Pokemon store there.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not as much into the Pokemon as he used to be. I mean, he's almost 15 now, but I still think that inner kid in him would probably come screaming right out. Japan was a fun place.
Yeah, and I think it definitely is a place I'd like to get back to at some point. You know, we were blessed that most of our trip was in the Nasu Shirobara Highlands, which is about 4 hours north of Tokyo. That's when at the Toa Pure Cottages, that's where the event took place for the Japan Open in 2008 and 2010. I think a few other years, but the two times I was there, one of which with you, was in that location. So for some of these players and people, like I said, like Jeff going into Tokyo, Aaron Doyle in Tokyo just today, just to take in all of that section and area in that city for a few days seems like it would be awesome. Dedicate more time to it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. All right. So I know we talked in the other show, in the regular show, but we were unconfirmed if Schwebe picked up a win this last weekend or not. And did he not compete? It appears that he did not, so I don't know what I'm missing out on.
A rare weekend.
I do not
Maybe he had a wedding or something else going on.
Oh, or maybe there was an unsanctioned team event or something possibly going on, something of that nature. But yeah, I do not see Schwebe as a competitor for this last weekend. I see in MPO, May 11th was his last one. In MP40, April, and in MP50, the weekend before was an event for him. So no Schwebe wins or updates from this last weekend. When are you going to get back out to the Pacific Northwest?
Pacific Northwest.
Yes.
I don't know. That's probably not for anytime soon. If I do go out there, I'd love to get out to Bend. Obviously, I want to do, I'd love to do Bevel. I'm not a beer person, but I'm sure Nate could find something for me.
Mm-hmm,
I'm sure we could find some place to go where I could enjoy a beverage. I wonder if
you'd like barley wine.
Nope.
Have you tried it?
Nope. If it has hops in it, I don't think I'm going to like it.
Barley wine.
I mean, I'm willing to try it.
Yeah, you should try it. There's a chance you like barley wine.
Okay.
Things can get sideways with barley wine too.
Things can get sideways with anything if you try hard enough.
That's true. I'll give you that. Okay, yeah. So you
but
take
Pacific
a little
Northwest,
Bend in action.
Yeah, I'd love to get to Bend. I'd love to get to Bend. Beaver State Fling would be fine. I've been there. There's nothing drawing me to the Portland Open event. I've got no ties with that particular event.
Sure.
There's I think it's probably a really cool place and the course itself, Glendevere, but I don't plan on playing that long ass course.
No.
Even if you there's just no drive for me to play that. Like, cool, throw again, then throw again, and then throw again on a lot of those holes. That just doesn't do much for me. There are other courses I'd play before that, but I don't know. I've got no plans to get out there for anything, to be honest. So.
Okay. Fairway Media is in the chat. That's Justin Banks, who was one of the two cameramen from this weekend. So,
thank you for your work this weekend.
Again, appreciate it.
Yeah, he says go throw a fish in downtown Seattle. No, I'd love to go. I'd love to go check out Seattle. I'd love to. We kind of went through Portland a little bit when we were there. There's a lot of places I'd like to get back out to California at some point. Yeah, I mean, trying to think.
Do you need a return to some Arizona weather?
Maybe. Depends on when it is. Vegas. Like there's a few places in the country that I haven't been that I would really like to. Vegas is one of them.
Okay.
Just because it's Vegas.
I know a guy that likes to go.
I know you do. I've been to the Pacific Northwest. I wouldn't mind getting to Seattle. I don't necessarily need to go to Portland. I wouldn't mind going out east again to Boston.
Mm.
My wife and I were talking about New York again. We went there on our honeymoon. It would be fun to go to New York. But other than that, I don't know, man. There's just not a lot of places in the U.S. that I'm drawn to right now. We did Niagara, like I said, we did Niagara Falls. Obviously, there's always. I'd love to get to the Grand Canyon at some point. I'd lived out in Arizona when I was a kid, and we never actually went. We were there for about a year. So, yeah.
Carney says Pacific Northwest is forecasted to have a cool, wet summer this year.
As opposed to...
I don't know. I feel like that's a troll of sorts.
I think so.
Daniel Flores writes and says, first-time listener here. Where are you guys from? Well, Daniel, I got a couple things for you. For starters...
thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. I don't know how or where you got to us, but we appreciate it. Second of all, we're in the Milwaukee area.
Wisconsin, just north of Chicago.
Yeah, Johnny V is in a northern Milwaukee suburb. I'm in a western Milwaukee suburb. The few times a year when I am home, that's where I'm located. That's where I get my mail sometimes. And then lastly, maybe most importantly at this point, this is also what we call the after show. And just so everyone knows, if you're new here, this is the part of the show that is essentially completely unscripted and or open to any interpretation.
We answer questions. We talk about a little disc golf. We talk about anything else really we want. Maybe whether it's things we've done, gone, listened to, watched, read.
And some news sometimes, some pop culture occasionally.
Anything
and everything. Happening. This is our random banter time. The hard-hitting journalism that we also don't do would be in the beginning in the regular show where we had Deann Carey featured a little bit earlier tonight.
Talk about current disc golf news, an interview with a player, things like that.
Yes. So I just wanted to make that distinction. If you think, man, are these guys just rambling about the dumbest stuff and they call themselves a disc golf podcast?
Well, the answer is yes anyway.
The answer is yes to that as well. So... as you've pulled up here recently, is there anything new? I know you don't peruse the Reddits like you used to quite as much, but has there been any other news or chatter that's out there this weekend being...
Holiday weekend.
Yeah, holiday weekend and not an official Elite Series event taking place. We clearly saw a ton of competitors either doing some form of travel or relaxing and or, maybe light practice for the upcoming event. But
I didn't really see anything newsworthy from this past weekend. Again, other than this morning when I saw the Kristin news, the logo rebrand and whatnot. Other than that, it was pretty quiet this weekend.
Okay. It was... I don't want to call it perfect weather because it did rain on us a little bit, but overall, what a refreshing, different feel and whatnot as we were in the Pacific Northwest. Imagine that. It was a little bit cloudy, a little bit overcast. We did have some rain or drizzle, and not that anyone that lives out there would be surprised when I say this. Just when you think it's like, oh, yeah, it looks great. It's clear. It's fine. It's nice. I don't need that umbrella. I don't need that coat. Yeah, pack it along anyway because literally... 15 minutes later, you're going to need it. And that ended up being a little bit of the case this weekend. So,
and here, too, we kind of had, for Friday was gorgeous. Saturday was decent, I believe. Is that what it was? Or it was Saturday, Friday?
Maybe I heard
Saturday.
Sunday here was terrible.
Sunday was horrible. Yesterday was just mediocre. It rained a little bit. It was cloudy. We were able to get outside. I did the super exciting thing of I emptied out my shed completely and reorganized it. Threw away a bunch of stuff that we had. I know. It was...
I'm sorry I missed that.
You did. You missed me emptying out the shed, hanging all the tools in a nice orderly manner because we only had about half of them hung up. The others were just leaned up against the inside of the shed. Took out all the pots that my wife had from all of her plants, reorganized that, got rid of a bunch of them, a bunch of older ones that she no longer wanted, and just super exciting yesterday. And I played a lot of Settlers of Catan with my family.
Okay.
So I think we played one good game each night, which usually about an hour and a half-ish or so each game. So something we all enjoy doing together here.
Sorry. Side note. I was looking at, I know we talked about this in the show earlier where we were discussing the idea of players earning Q Series points, and one of those which right now, who's played in an event or two, Joe Revere, also seeing that he is your highest rated MP40 competitor. And I had a little chat today with none other than Dana Vici, obviously a longtime contributor to the show. We'll have to get him back on here very soon. But Dana going to be playing in the MP40 division. I think I did some counting. He's around the 8th or 10th highest rated.
I was thinking top 10.
Yeah, he certainly is. And what a cast of names here that you and I are very intimately familiar with the likes of Joe Revere. I sorted by PDGA rating. This is all largely significant because as early as late next week, we're going to be talking more and more about the Masters Worlds, which will be kicking off really the beginning of next weekend, so to speak, in about 9 or 10 days. Joe Revere, Kale LaVisca, Josh Anthon, Martin Hendel, Paul Oman, Dave Felberg, Matt Blakely, Dana Vici, Matt Dollar, Steve Rico, Eric McCabe, all guys you and I have known for 20 plus years.
All guys
much.
most
of them. We didn't know we haven't known Martin as long. He's from Canada.
Yeah.
So we haven't known him as long.
Haven't known Paul Oman quite as long as some of those other guys, but he's been around for a while.
Pretty close to 20 years for most of those guys, and then some.
It's
so those are very exciting.
Those are all guys that have been whooping us for years. Way to go! Yeah. They all gang up in one place.
And on the FPO side, again, names that you guys are all pretty familiar with. Obviously, Owen Scoggins, the two-time or three-time defending champ. How many worlds has she won? Two in the Masters.
I think 2 in Masters.
I think maybe 3, probably 3. Owen, Jennifer Allen, Stephanie Vincent, Sandy Hendel, Elidwin, all names again that we've known forever. So should be pretty exciting. And it's going to be kind of busy next weekend. And I'm a full week ahead of myself. This would be better conversation for next week. But just thinking ahead, you have the U.S. Am Nationals.
Mm-hmm.
So US ADGC taking place over there in Wixom at the Toboggan. That takes place. That's an AM only major next weekend. It's also going to be the kickoff of the Pro and AM Masters Worlds, field events, putting, distance competition, and the doubles. That all is kicking off. And then you're also going to have the Beaver State Fling happening. So, some very notable things all getting kicked off late next week. Should be pretty exciting to see. All right, I do have news that in my car, I didn't even open the box because they arrived in the last few days when I wasn't home. Some SmashBoxxTV Patreon exclusive discs. They're all in the box. I didn't even do a check. Tim, I apologize. As soon as I open that box, you will get a picture of how they turned out, seeing how Tim had graciously done our stamp for the 2023 Patreon disc. So that has officially arrived. Johnny V and I will get those signed, and then I'll get them boxed up and shipped out, and they will finally get to you guys. So thank you to all of our Patreon subscribers and supporters for that. But there's the update on that. Brian says, all of the people I used to watch play when I started watching disc golf. Yes, it's certainly some of our most iconic players and competitors throughout all these years. Tim says, I'll be there rooting for Blakely, who, of course, is a home state hero. Makes perfect sense. I can appreciate that. Carney says, the video is buffering for you guys?
I don't know. Not for us on this side.
Not for us. Our
been,
internets are good.
Internet's been good for a while.
Seems like it's been working out. Oh, okay. Maybe it did for some other people then.
Oh, but it was just for a moment.
Justin was telling me, as he lives in that Seattle area. What was your address again, Justin? I wanted to share it with everyone. No, he was telling me that at a very, very reasonable rate, he has like a gig up and a gig down at his house out there in Seattle.
Sure, that's what we have here.
Well, you do. I can't at my household.
You still can't get AT&T fiber at your household?
No.
Okay.
I cannot.
Yeah.
But even if I could, it would not come in at the reasonable rates that Justin was talking about.
What's his reasonable rate? I'm curious.
What did you say, Justin? I remember balking at it and being like, "Are you kidding? I pay way more for way less."
Yeah,
because way less.
I
forgot what he told me the exact amount was.
I think I pay. It might be $80 a month here. Maybe 89.
No, really?
It might be 89.
Really?
I'd have to take a look.
Then maybe I just need to wait. He says it's mostly 800-ish up and down at $75, which I would take in a heartbeat because I know I'm paying more than that for lesser quality.
First of all, you shouldn't be paying more than that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's tied into something else, maybe with one of the kids' phones. Now that I think about it,
it could be.
It might be. Anyway, Ed writes. Anyone know why Philo and Michael Johansson are not playing Masters Worlds? I know MJ had some form of hand injury not that long ago, and he was very sidelined to it. I mean, to the point where he made a post and like, "Oh, I played, pain-free." No, I played pain-free recently, and that was, I don't know, within the last month or two.
And I'm gonna be honest and say, these aren't Michael Joe courses.
Yeah.
It wouldn't shock me, even if he were 100% healthy, if he didn't make the trip out to Emporia. He's been always very open and honest about the type of courses he enjoys the most. He doesn't like even USDGC. He feels that's too open. It's too it's not the style. There's some things he really doesn't like. I can't imagine the Emporia courses really being a driving factor for him. Obviously winning a major would be, but
it's just not really his style. If Worlds obviously were happening in Charlotte or just in courses that he enjoyed, I think, that much more due to his style, then I think you'd see him play. Now, that's a really good question as to Philo not competing. Philo's not even registered for a single event this year? Any remaining events right now?
Correct. Right? I don't see him on for any more events. He's played really 4 events this year,
all international,
all international, and I have not. He's not currently registered for any events. I think he's going to be doing some broadcasting. I know that, but I don't know if he's doing it during the Masters.
I'm assuming, he must have.
He might be.
I'm gonna guess that he's on the broadcast team for the Beaver State Fling next weekend, and he might be for. I'm gonna assume he is actually for Portland this weekend as well. And I don't know if he committed to that and didn't think about it, or just he maybe doesn't have interest in playing those courses. But that is a fair question as to why he's not playing in the Worlds. That's a good question. Carney said, when was the last time MJ crossed the Mississippi? Yeah, that's a good. That'd be. You got to get Statmando on that. They run those numbers all the time. Carney says, I have a gigabyte, but it's like 940 up and down. Yeah, I would not be splitting those hairs or worrying about it with my measly 20 up. I think I have about 20 or 25 up. It's not that great.
Yeah, that's like the Spectrum Basic these days. I think 30 is their new baseline.
Tim says, I'd imagine MJ would play in the Selinsky since it's in North Carolina. That is probably a fair assumption.
I'll apologize to anyone if it buffers out here for a second, but I just did a quick speed test and I'm getting about 880 down, and the upload might take a second, but
we're talking speeds here.
Talking internet speeds here on the Smashbox Studio. I'm not even gonna bother waiting for upload. It's pretty concurrent, and I don't want to mess with the quality and the off chance. But yeah, so I get some good speed here. Just saying.
Justin says, with my good internet, my Call of Duty lobbies still kill me.
I've always, I mean, since we were doing the broadcast out of the basement, I've always looked for the fiber internet connection. I was the very first person at the old house in our neighborhood. Literally, I think the day it was released, I called and said, "Hey, can I get it?" And they're like, "You're the only one. We need to start running." I was like, "Cool, get it to me."
Somebody's got to be first.
And then it was already available here when we moved in, but I think I'm the first person in this neighborhood too, because they had to pull it from the main box down, a block or so down the road as to where I am. Yeah, it's been, I really love it. I really love it. I like it a lot.
I do have an update of sorts. Many of you have heard me, we'll say whine or complain. I've joined the club throughout the last few months of not necessarily being on the forefront of United's favorites, and they treated me quite well yesterday. So,
well, good.
I made sure to tweet accordingly. I love to give credit where it's due. Yesterday, everything went well. However, I did hear as I was flying last night from Seattle to Chicago, I left at about midnight last night. Or I guess that was last night. I'm a little turned around. Did that. However, I think I saw in a headline today that a flight that was trying to go from Chicago to Seattle had some form of engine failure or fire or something like that. Needless to say, and I know they're kind of like, there's a little bit of a recency thing to it, and maybe they're under a lot bigger microscope at the moment, but things overall with United and or Boeing don't seem to be coming up roses. Is that a fair statement?
I think that's a fair statement. And I do think it's a little bit of recency. There have been engine fires in planes. Planes have lost engines in the middle of flights. Everything over the last 20 years. Emergency landings. But we are seeing some more significant and issues. And I think there's you want to get into a whole political thing about Boeing if you really want to. But they're not doing so hot. I'll say that. They need to answer some questions, is my understanding.
Well, they got me safely from one side of the country to the other this
that's
weekend. Great. So I'll take the small victory when I can. So appreciate that. I will make the note that Martin Hendel, who we were just referencing, and this is nothing more than a coincidence, has just recently posted. And I said he's one of the top 8 or so in terms of overall ratings. He just posted to the World Championships group out there saying, I'm looking for a doubles partner. If you want to play, shoot me a message.
There you go, T-Dog.
Martin Hendel. Yeah. I don't think that I'll be signing up for Worlds just so I could go do that. But
you don't.
He wouldn't want me anyway.
First of all, I don't think you need to play Worlds in order to sign up for the doubles.
That's a fair question.
Second of all, it depends what course it's on. If it's out at ECC, the community club, then I don't see any reason why
it's at Jones.
I don't see any reason why you couldn't play and compete. You're not going to help him out much.
Yeah, I was going to say there's this thing called alternate shot. I think
I'm just saying.
I would not want to frustrate the Canadian. It might be the one time you see a Canadian all pissed off. I will. Not that I wouldn't want to play with him because he's damn good.
Yeah,
but
I'm just saying. I think you should throw your name into that bucket. Just no reason not to, Terry.
I think my efforts will be better suited behind a camera for that particular day.
I'm not doubting that.
I think that will help further the sport more, as opposed to me going out and frustrating the Canadian. Airplanes are hundreds, if not thousands times safer than cars. There's no still doubt about that. It's just obviously anytime they're in the news, it's so much more amplified.
Well, the funny, I think the thing about airplanes versus cars, obviously it's a part of it's a mental thing, and that people have a fear of heights, fear of falling, fear of flying. You're so much closer to the ground in a car, but also the significance. It's kind of, and this might be
an all or nothing thing.
Yeah, it's like a silly analogy, but I always equate like a pit bull versus a chihuahua. Both can get very upset at you, but one of which is going to tear your arm off. The other is going to, probably, just a little bite. A car, yes, you can die in a car. Car accident could take out, usually 1, 2, 3 people. A plane, there's 200 people gone. Like it's a scale.
Definitive.
Gone, Terry.
Yeah.
It's I think it's a scale thing for people.
I know,
with the
which is
plane.
crazy though, because as they say, you're
It's way
more likely
safer.
to die
Way
on the
safer
way,
in a
driving
plane.
your car on the way to the airport
Yep.
than to actually die in a plane. Hundreds of times or thousands of times over. It's way safer to be in the plane, as opposed to be going to the airport. I get it.
I saw something where one of the planes, there was some plane that had dropped 6,000 feet because of turbulence.
Yeah, that was the big thing
what-
in the news a week or two ago.
I can't
One
imagine
person,
my stomach coming out through my nose in
Yeah.
that instance, and obviously people got severely injured with that and thrown
there ended up
around.
being one fatality.
Yeah, it just
that was related to that.
and I don't know if you necessarily blame any particular reason for that, or if that's just bad luck or bad turbulence. I don't know, but it's just ugh.
Well, what it also, and not that it would just like within a car, a seatbelt clearly does not guarantee any kind of safety. But I always have, I'll be the first to admit this out of just complete ignorance. I've never understood why the hundreds of times I've heard airline stewardesses and attendants and captains say, the seatbelt, like, put your seatbelt on when you're seated. And I always think, well, I'm seated. Like, well, who cares? I'm seated. And until this scenario just happened,
Three-dimensional, Terry.
Until that scenario just happened a few days ago, I hadn't really thought of the idea of a significant drop, you potentially coming out of your seat for that reason. I always thought, well, if you're in a plane and something's happening, you probably would have enough time to then fasten your seatbelt. If you were going to crash or if something drastic was happening, there's probably some form when you're at 30,000 feet already. It's going to be a minute before you're going to get to the ground. So you'd have time.
Here's my thing about that. If you're going to get to the ground, I don't think a seatbelt's going to help you if you're going 30,000 feet to the ground, Terry. No, to be fair, it could. You could just have a very rough landing. It could be whatever. The belt is there for, I think, the turbulence reasons more so than the...
Exactly, which I never thought of turbulence to that degree.
Sure.
I've experienced it. Everybody's experienced some form of turbulence, but I've never thought it to be so bad that or volatile that you would actually be lifted out of your seat where your head is then hitting the overhead bin. Like,
do you take off your seatbelt?
That just never crossed my mind.
When you sit down, like after this says ding, you take off. I always usually forget and I leave my seatbelt on.
No, I leave it on for the entire flight anyway.
Unless I get up to use the restroom or something.
I'll leave it on for the entire flight, regardless. So but if I did take it off the only time I would is if I was going to go use the restroom, and then I may or may not immediately put it right.
Yeah,
back on.
I probably would
but
not.
But it's
put it
not
back
like
on.
we get to a certain height, and I'm like, no.
Which is funny because in a car, I'm very conscious of wearing a seatbelt all the time. Anytime this sounds really dumb. Anytime I'm in the front seat.
Okay.
I don't necessarily
feel safer in the back though.
Well, yeah. I don't know what it is. Like I wear the seatbelt less if I ever have to sit in the back seat. But I'm so rarely in the back seat these days. Being a grown man, adult, it doesn't happen very often.
Huh.
But if I were, like, for instance, take a trip, if I were to sit in the back seat on the way back from like a 3-hour trip in our Grand Cherokee, I would probably wear the seatbelt because it has a shoulder seatbelt on the side,
That's when you feel safe,
as opposed to the
lap
belt that I would have in like a center seat or something weird. I'd probably put it on, but when I get into an Uber or anything, I rarely wear a seatbelt in the back seat.
I feel like very
It's
few
just-
people. I don't know why.
I don't know either.
Especially because you're riding with a stranger.
A stranger you don't know.
That you have
But
no idea of
listen,
their
Terry,
tendencies.
I might want to get out real quick.
That's true. That's true. Carney says, once I thought a plane was going to break in half, I could see the wings flex like a bird. I can understand that until I watched a particular random video about the wings on commercial level planes and for lack of a better term, their durability and what they can do. I've knock on wood, I've put that fear to rest forever. I'm never worried about obviously one wing clipping another wing with another plane, different story, and all that stuff. But in terms of their actual pliability, so to speak, I guess if that's the right word for it.
Yeah.
There was an incredible, it was like a YouTube video that explained and showed some of the extremes and the measures in which plane wings can handle. Since then, I've never been worried. I just saw that video a couple of years ago, and I'm like, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about other things that can go wrong, but the actual wings themselves snapping, that's something that doesn't concern me. Wrapping up school, kids, no sports, all that kind of stuff. So nothing else major going on here. When's your next event that you're going to compete in?
That I'm going to compete in. Oh gosh, I need to think about that.
Masters Worlds, Martin Hendel. You call
Martin, come on, give me a ring a ding ding,
because he's watching our show
I know.
and just like, oh gosh, I hope Johnny or Terry put out the.
No, I will not be at Masters Worlds. I'm doing the broadcast for Beaver State, as we know. So that's the 3 days before the week of Worlds, Masters Worlds.
Well, yeah, then you couldn't. I mean, you're effectively
occupied, Martin. Sorry.
Yeah, you should just send him an email.
I'm just
just send him an unsolicited email.
Busy, Martin.
Yeah, say I saw your post. I just want you to know I'm sorry that I'm not available.
Mm-hmm.
I will be, I'll be directing the show for Beaver State Fling on that Saturday.
It's not going to happen. Sorry, Martin.
So, I hate to disappoint
you. Deflate your balloon. So I'll be doing that. The next event I believe I'm playing is the Pickle Open in Sheboygan, Wisconsin at the Quarry. I don't know when that is, to be honest. I think it's in my calendar. I'll have to take a look.
Okay.
That's 40 minutes north of here at best. So that's really the next. And then after that, I think I'm doing Northwoods up in Lac du Flambeau with a bunch of our friends. I've got a place to stay up there, I know already. So staying at the big house where we've stayed in the past. But yeah, that's about it. Terry, do you even have an idea of the next event you're going to play?
I really don't.
I didn't
there
think
was
so.
There was a chance of trying to look a week or two ago when I was looking into possibly having a weekend open. This upcoming weekend, I don't think I'm going to be able to partake. I think me and my 2 daughters are going to take a trip to Wrigley Field. They have never been there, and
for the better.
One of them had just kind of in passing said she'd like to see Wrigley. My older one, the 15-year-old, she'd like to see it, and it's going to work out pretty well. I think that I take my 2 daughters down to Chicago and have them be part of taking in Wrigley and just the experience of playing over there.
That's cool.
Or of seeing it.
Cubs did beat the Brewers tonight. I think 6-3 in 10 innings. So they scored 3. Clearly, probably some sort of 2-run or 3-run homer. And Brewers won last night. So I think there's a 2-game. I think Brewers are up still 2 games in the division.
Okay, sounds about right. And they're playing again tomorrow.
I think it's a 3-game series.
Kind of a side note, and it's pretty random, I realize, but I did get an update. In addition to having the new Smashbox Patreon disc, which we'll get out, I also have got confirmation that looks like maybe they arrived tonight after I left. I made orders for the new Grand Grace, the Kristin Tattar. Kristin Tattar 1,000 rated discs. I did order a few of those, so I will have some of those for sale. Plenty of those will get put in a bag and then probably just tucked away as a collectible item. I'll do that with some of them, but I will have a few available for sale as well. And I saw somebody make a post on Facebook saying they missed out on the drop not too long ago, so just know that I'll have some of those available. So reach out if you want to, especially if you want to pay a premium price.
I have a question for our Smashies.
Uh-oh.
Maybe for Terry, but I doubt it. I was at Home Depot this weekend, and I seriously debated buying a bunch of PVC pipe and building a putter holder for my outside, for my backyard.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that bothers me is...
bending over.
No, not that at all. All my putters sit in my basket.
Mm-hmm.
When it rains, some putters are upside down. So even if it's been like 2-3 days, I'll grab the putters out and it'll be slimy on the inside and leaves and it's all wet still, so I have to dry it off. But I figure with a putter holder, you put them all the right way, they won't collect water. So I thought maybe I'll get a PVC one. I priced it out with PVC and all the parts, probably about $40 to $50 in parts. That part doesn't faze me.
Yeah.
The MVP pod
Yep.
is about anywhere between 70 and 80, depending on where you get it.
Yes.
What do people have an opinion on the MVP pod? Or should I build something on my own to do it? I have the bending over to pick up putters. I don't have to bend up very often. I just walk the basket. They're in the basket. That's right, Terry.
No brainer. Always right in the basket.
And to be fair, the only reason why I would want it usually is almost for disk storage, like I said, because my putters just sit. I've got probably about 15 or almost close to 20 putters in my basket.
Okay, quit flexing on them. Okay, you got 15, 20 putters.
Like I said, I bought 5, and I got them last week, I believe, of the Simon Lizotte Pixel, the commemorative one, because I wanted 5 identical Pixel putters. And I've thrown them around a little bit. They're not as floaty as I had hoped. But then again, I've only thrown them a couple times, so I need to get used to them. I also have a couple, the BL Steadies and a couple of the Pures, and it feels like the Pixels they're a little bit more stable with a little less float than the Pure. But it's all getting used to it. So anyway, I want to mess around with a bunch of different putter styles. Is the MVP pod a good investment? Or should I build my own out of like a PVC? Because it looks really nice, and it would be nice to have something like that. I feel like, and I'm leaning towards just ordering it as opposed to building my own and spray painting it black so it doesn't look like the white PVC. You're all in like $40 or $50 at that point.
Yeah,
is it worth
plus the time?
Plus the time? Is it worth the extra 30 to save myself 2 hours worth of work to build this, and
which may or may not work as well?
Oh, it'll probably work.
I mean,
relatively as well.
I mean, yeah.
So anyway, has anyone used them?
Well, that's a good question. And if anybody needs to order a pod, I'm your guy. I could get that drop shipped right to your house. Johnny, I will sell you one for $1 less than whatever the low price is you find online.
Oh, $1 less. And it's probably custom hand delivered, which is nice.
Yes, of course. So, and then I'll watch you put it together. Yes, for what it's worth, and I never give this random plug, but since Johnny set it up unknowingly, if there are discs, I am a dealer of Innova, of Discraft, DGA, all the major brands, and whether it's the discs or any of their equipment, especially stuff that would get drop shipped, like when you're looking at baskets or pods or anything of that nature. Of course, I would always appreciate the business. If somebody's ever looking to order any of those things, there's plenty of great websites that offer all of that stuff. Or if you're interested in possibly throwing the support my way, you can always just send me a message and say, hey, I'm trying to order a pair of pods so that when I'm doing my putting practice between my 2 baskets, I can set one pod on one side and one on the other. And I would gladly order up a pair of pods and send them your way.
That'd be a baller move. Like, I think it'd be great to have 2 baskets, but then to have 2 pods as well.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, they're holding your putters.
So you just grab them and putt, and then
then you go.
I suppose.
Oh, and then you round them. You round them all out of the basket, and then you go and set them in the pod there, and then you putt back the other way. So
yeah, I guess.
Just saying.
I Heart Disc Golf says JVD. I think it is still an MVP map holiday. Hint, hint. All right.
Slow down out there. No, what he's referencing is the fact that MVP a couple of times a year either significantly reduces and or waives a lot of their minimum pricing policies. So that if somebody wants to liquidate or sell stuff way cheap... So you can sell
one to me for $20. Thanks, Tara.
Yes, as many as you want.
I appreciate that.
I'll get you 9 pods so you can set up an entire course.
I appreciate
out
that,
there.
Terry.
I would be allowed to sell it to you for way less than what I pay for it. That would make perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yes, I would love to do that.
Yeah, the lowest I found online someplace was, I think, $70. I think it was $69.99 one place. I don't even...
just $66.99 for shipping on that.
Yeah, probably. I didn't look at the shipping. I literally was just poking around. I was in Home Depot looking at the PVC, and I had a schematic up of how I wanted to build it. It looked very similar to the pod. There's 2 different styles. There's one that was a little lower to the ground that I was looking at, and there's the pod. And I was like, do I just, I could do this, or I just get a pod and just,
be done with it.
Just be done with it. Support MVP, support people, that are in disc golf and things like that. So I'll have to
Well, Dan out there says, get the pod. It's great.
Get the pod. All right. Terry, get me a pod.
Okay, I will.
Bring it over and I'll have it.
Carney
I'm not going to tell you I'm going to pay you, but I'll have it.
Carney says,
I'll just hold it for you.
I have a milk crate zip tied to a hand cart.
Well,
that makes sense.
One of the other things I saw was someone took a Home Depot bucket, one of the orange buckets.
Like a 5-gallon pail?
Like a 5-gallon pail, and they had just slid them in there, and they put it on some sort of stand, and it was, which is fine. I was thinking, though, at that point, why not just cut open the bucket, and so it's at least open on the top of it?
Oh, I was going to say cut open the side of the bucket.
Yeah, because it was angled like the MVP pod, but it was a full bucket.
Okay, angled, you're saying. Okay.
Yeah,
I
as opposed
it was just mounted.
No. It was angled because it was on some sort of stand.
Sure.
And then cut the top. I'm like, why didn't you cut the top off? I saw a picture of it. But and again, my wife would appreciate it if it didn't look janky in the back. She puts up with the basket. She doesn't mind that. It's that's nice. But I think if I had like a PVC with a Home Depot bucket on it, she might start to give me some funny looks. And someone had said that they take their putters in because the UV and stuff. I could understand that. I have a pretty shaded backyard. I'm not super concerned about a lot of sunlight and things like that. And most of these putters are practice putters anyway. So I would, if I end up falling in love with some of them, then so be it.
I love Ed says, just get one of your kids to hold them.
I mean,
just have Mason. Yeah, Dad. We're going outside to play for an hour. Okay. He's just standing there holding discs while you're putting.
Thanks, kid.
Oh, that would be just the visual of that.
It's hard enough to get that kid outside sometimes.
That would be hilarious.
I don't think having him just hold my putters would be worthwhile. My daughter might do it. She enjoys all she wants to do when I go outside to putt is she wants to sit down and watch with a camera and take pictures and then scream and cheer every time I miss. Not when I make it.
She's a true fan.
She just wants to cheer when I miss, and she'll yell, "Ooh, so close!"
Let's get her some VIP passes for the tour.
I would
see how well that goes.
I would love to take her to a tour stop. I honestly don't know, because she obviously, as many of you know, she has special needs. I don't think she could keep herself quiet. It was enough for me a couple years ago to bring her to USW DGC in Madison, where we kept our distance because I knew the course really well, so I could really kind of shift around at Token Creek and not be near people when they were putting. Like, we would keep at least like 100 feet distance. But she, I would love to bring her, which is really funny because there's a video out there of. Maybe we could follow Rachel Turton's card around, because there's a video of her out there and how she practices for distractions. She literally has someone behind the basket juggling and someone next to her playing the bagpipes as she's putting.
I have not seen.
You've not seen that? Oh, it's out. It's out on Reddit right now.
Is this like her dad and her significant other?
I don't know if this is a joke or if this is like somehow she really practices on. Focusing. Here's the video. I'll bring it up here on the screen.
It says, this is how Rachel Turton trains in Scotland. Course is Bluebell.
I'll see if I can turn up the computer audio as well. Push this up a little bit. And this is on one of the hardest courses in the world. How does she practice under pressure?
Are you ready for another
18? Gavin Black, 1,000 rated bagpipe player. So he plays this while she's throwing, apparently. And then the juggler behind the basket. This is my favorite. I watched this today. I thought it was hilarious. Now, I don't know if this is a joke or if this is... I mean, clearly...
I think they're playing into some stereotypes here.
I hope so. But what a phenomenal... Forge your game. Yeah, it's definitely...
A commercial for an event out there. That is absolutely awesome.
It's a great, which is funny because we do hear about a lot of players who get upset at certain things around the course and movements, and other people bring up, like, look at every other sport other than like golf, where people tend to be quiet their backswings, but free throws and pitching and like there's so many. Our sport could go, and right now it's leaning towards one direction, which is a more courteous method, but there's no reason why we couldn't swing the other way and have people cheering and yelling during throws. I don't know.
I always, there's a valid argument there, especially when it comes to, basketball and football being two, of course, where people are yelling and screaming. There's just always, where's that fine line?
Yeah, and that's a great question.
Somebody shows up with a foghorn or an air horn.
I agree.
Or, just how loud and specific can you yell? Especially when you're outdoors, you probably feel like there's even a few extra notches that you could take it up when you're out there.
I don't think we should be going that method. I do think some of our pros are a little bit touchy on some things that they need to relax about. I would not want a waste management open type experience. Now, if we had one event that was kind of like that, I think that could be fun. Pick a Q series or an A tier where everyone is almost like a Raz round. That would be fine. I don't think I'd want that all the time, but
Thank you to everyone that got in on the comments. And, I know earlier we were talking about Alden Harris and how well received he was. Plenty of people with lots of good stuff were chiming in throughout the various videos as well. And I just so happened to click on one a moment ago. This is a new one.
Okay.
Within one of the coverage, looks like the round 3 back 9. It's just said, "Can we please get rid of Terry?" And I think yes, a-hole, we can. Just don't watch the video. It's that easy. Don't watch the coverage, and then you won't have any worries whatsoever. But if you got rid of me, it might be hard to watch said tournament because I was kind of contracted to cover it.
It wouldn't exist.
But anyway, and then there's a lot of people. Of course, we had some significant Finnish representation, what I believe is Finnish representation within the comment section, and I always am hesitant to like or heart it because I don't know what it's being said. And then I think, is there an obligation for me to take what they wrote and then take it over to a translator? And then
you should be able to almost just highlight it and then right click on it and probably translate maybe.
I mean, that's putting a lot of extra work on me here.
It is. I don't think you necessarily need to.
Click on translate selection to English. Let's see what this comment says. Okay.
That didn't say anything. Great.
It says...
it's way up there.
Yeah, it's up here. It says what I believe is it's supposed to mean Niklas. It says Niklas should be nerfed.
Which means that he's too overpowered. Nerfing is like a game term for... It's like a Nerf bullet. He should be nerfed. He should be softened. Someone should take away his power. He's too overpowered. He's too good.
Okay. Well, that was written in Finnish, and before I just did that translation, I certainly didn't know what it meant. And even now that I do the translation, I hadn't heard that phrasing.
Yeah, that's
there's always a hesitancy because I go out there and I read the comments, and then I'll try to reply if they're pertinent or there's a genuine question or something of that nature. And then I see that one, I'm like, I don't know if I should like that because what if they're saying something
rude,
or offensive?
No, that is not a rude or offensive comment.
Another comment I see in there, this could be an entire segment of just picking like the best comments that were. One of them was, I was talking about Matt earlier, the Coast Guard. He was the only guy wearing shorts when it was chilly out that day. And he was out there wearing shorts and is very fit. And someone said Matt has never skipped leg day in his life. So
good shape. Obviously.
He's in good shape. He's a Coast Guard, and yeah. So anyway, I feel like that could be a funny. When I say I'll quiz you on this, since you didn't yet watch the coverage, but I know you will later.
I'll be right on that, Terry. I'll just play it in the background to get the views.
When I say we watched Vaino Makula throwing this weekend. Often from a standstill, even off the tee on a 285 foot hole. When I say standstill player, who comes to mind? Who else may come to mind, if anyone, for you? When you think of people that like on a tee box, for instance, may be prone or customary or known for standstills.
Gosh, that's a good question. I can't right now. I'm going blank. I know they're.
Because I named one that's a little more our era. I'll give you that clue. And then a lot of people came at me hard in the comments about not naming the other one, who's much more of a current day figure that we see on the tour. Here's a couple. Ed Root comes in with a legitimate contribution. Says Corey Ellis. He does stand on the tee. I think some sub.
Kenny used to always promote standstills. I don't know if I wouldn't say he was ever known for it, but he used to always say if he could get there with a standstill, he wasn't doing any run up. That was always kind of. I remember him literally telling me that in person one time.
Jim Oates. Jim, I feel like takes the one stepper. Like, no matter how short, I feel like Jim lifts and takes one step, which is kind of like a standstill.
Yeah, honestly.
But Jim always, I feel like, takes one step and delivers, even on some of his drives, is most powerful. Jen Allen will go to a standstill on some sub 300 foot, like
sure,
rock or AVR type shots. She would fit in a category of a person you'd see doing that.
Yeah, I don't know,
All
Terry.
right. Well, the person I immediately think of, Steve Brinster.
Okay, yeah.
There's a sub 300. There's a lot of times you will see him stand just at the front of the tee.
I would have not pulled that name out. I know Brinster's little hop step,
of course,
and his driving the bus. But in my head, I would not have put him as the standstill guy. But you're right. I can picture it now that you say it.
Yeah, like think of hole 1 at USDGC.
Yes.
Like, and if there's a place to do it, that's a relatively common place. If anyone's comfortable doing it, hole 1 seems like a good place for them to do it. Is at hole 1 of USDGC. But yeah, Brinster specifically is who I thought of, and then the comments got real loud because I didn't mention Casey White, who is
really. I don't know. I don't know Casey's form. I mean, the funny thing is I can picture his throwing form, but I guess I haven't seen enough of him on shorter shots to know that he does a lot of standstill. Because a lot of people stand still from the fairway.
Of course, yeah.
But I'm thinking specifically off the tee. So, all right, let's...
Anyway, it was. I just think it's an interesting question, and I love even seeing the couple of the other additional contributions that Ed and Carney. Jen Allen absolutely fits in that bucket of people that you'd more commonly see standstilling off the tee, and Corey Ellis as well. I think those are two great contributions.
Paul Oman throws so slow you'd think he was stepping. He has that slow, methodical.
He throws at 240 frames per second.
Yes,
that's what I should do. I should film him at 240 frames per second, and then just watch how much slower that overall delivery is.
And I only say that just because obviously I saw him just a couple weeks ago playing, and I got to play on the card with him, and he's so deliberate until he gets to the point of pull through, when then it's a lot of power and snap, and it's fast, but him getting to that position is very, very methodical in a good way, as opposed to some people who have methodical pre-routines in a bad way.
Tim Court says, James Conrad / sarcasm. Quite the opposite. All right, Johnny, let's get ready.
We have a giveaway.
We
are not giving away an MVP pod tonight.
We are not. Well, we are. It'll
just to me
just cost you $89. Free shipping though.
Free shipping though. If you want to be eligible for our weekly giveaway, you can go to Smashbox. Go to our Patreon. Patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. I'll spit it out one of these times. Words have been hard for me tonight. Calling weeks, years, and it's been a long. So patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. For as little as $1 a month, you can be eligible for our giveaway. Or you can go to smashbox.tv/weekly giveaways every week, like some of our people do. This week we saw who did that this week.
No purchase required.
Robert Damon, Christopher Sigurdsson, and Glenn Reiser. All three of you this week hopped on. Some of you, 2 of you tonight, in fact. Eligible for our giveaway to go with the other people who are always eligible because they are Patreon supporters. So we have 132 people eligible.
You know what else I'm eligible for?
What? AARP card?
Not yet, but it's close. The Appleton East alumni site.
Oh, geez.
Maybe some of you have received these, where there's websites dedicated to getting your classmates together as alumni. And that's exactly the point. Like, how is this? And I get it. Not everybody loves or even tolerates or has Facebook. But to create a separate site.
Well, these have been around before Facebook.
Yeah, but with the main purpose,
classmates.com, I remember,
is to keep to keep in touch with your classmates. I just think, how are they still in business? Like, man, I'm anti-Facebook, but let me go sign up for classmates.com because I only want to keep in touch with those people that went to my school during this 2 or 3 year period. Anyway, I continue to get emails from them, and all I think is, I have this. It's called Facebook. But get your lifetime alumni membership for just $25.
Hold on 1 second, Terry.
You going to sign up?
No. I'm not going to sign up. I need to delete something.
Ooh.
We've for the recording, we've run out of space because I have not deleted anything in like 2 months.
All right. Reading on Tide Pod, Patreon disc. I don't know what the disc will be tonight. Right, the giveaway.
We're back.
We weren't back.
Well, we were back and live. Now I'm officially recording again, so there's going to be a little like a 30-second break where you were talking about classmates.com that the whole world.
That was our commercial.
It's a YouTube exclusive.
That was our commercial. I was doing a commercial. I was doing a plug for classmates.com. No, the Patreon disc, I don't know what it's going to be that I'm going to be giving away this week, but I do have, if you missed it earlier, Ed, I talked about having the 2023 Patreon supporter disc arrived in the last few days. Johnny and I
will be signing them
and get them sent out. Signed and sent out.
So 132 people are eligible for our giveaway at patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. Terry, what number are we going to draw? I sorted the names tonight by state. So if you are a Patreon supporter at the $3 and above level, you have your address in there. If not, you're just sorted below
some other
them.
way. Whatever the secondary sort is.
Yeah, so the top half names, bottom half or states. Bottom half
that's exciting.
Yeah. So anyway, let's generate a number here, Ter.
Let's generate the fourth number.
All right, the fourth number. Our first number is 118. Second number is 114. Third number is 132. A lot of high numbers. Are we going to get a fourth high number?
Yes.
Our fourth and final number is the high number of 19.
Told you.
The high number of 19, just as Terry predicted it.
Ed says, damn, I live in Texas. Wow, Eric. Yes, number 17.
But that's not what it was.
No, but pretty darn close. Just 2 off.
All right.
And as you're typing in and looking at that, Justin says, do you get the number from DGN about how many people watch each tournament and which are the most watched that are exclusive to DGN? Johnny and I don't, so to speak, get that report. Could we inquire about it or go look for it?
Sure.
Yeah, probably. Would they want us to share it or not? I don't know.
Yeah.
We haven't really asked about it. Quite honestly, we haven't asked about it. I'm sure all of the smarter people that are way up on the organizational chart do look at those things. That you'd be silly. You'd be silly not to look at those and then make some business decisions based upon the results of those viewers to some degree. Now, you may have this incredible series or this incredible production that's put together, and then it just doesn't hit, or maybe it could be with some time as to when it was released or how it was promoted or where it was promoted, things like that. I mean, if you make something of really good production value and just overall whatever it is good, I guess maybe you're ignorant if you then ignore that it wasn't widely viewed, but I think you have to also take into consideration, like I said, the promotion and the advertisement and the timing of it.
Of course.
Do you remember do you have any idea what was up this weekend? Was there a Tournament Central special? There was something exclusive to DGN this weekend? Of course.
The Macbeth thing. No, and it wasn't exclusive. I think it was exclusive to the Jomez Patreon.
Oh.
And it's going to get
to New York thing or a Foundation thing or what? I have no idea.
It was the Macbeth documentary from going overseas last year, I believe. I forget the name of it now.
Oh, okay.
And I believe it was a Patreon exclusive on the Jomez channel this week. I don't know if it released this weekend or if it's about to release, and then in a week or two, it's going to hit DGN.
Okay, so don't ask us because clearly we don't entirely know. But yeah, what he's saying, and all of that can factor in. Like I said, the timing of the release, what else is going on in terms of other disc golf productions, live and post
The
production.
Macbeth effect.
That's
what it's called.
Look at that.
I didn't even have to look it up.
Others.
But I'm sure other people, posted it.
Justin says, is it like 5 to 10K viewers on the final round Sunday? It's more than that. Generally speaking, at most events, I'm going to assume, just based on other
it's
numbers
over
that we
10K.
see, it's definitely over 10K. That is an average for live viewership on most tournaments. Now, if there's an absolute blowout or it's a course that's widely disliked, maybe it's not getting, but it could depend on the weekend and all those other types of things that factor in. Again, I don't have the sheet or the numbers in front of me, but I would bet a pod full of Johnny's Frisbees that it's over 10K for Sundays or final day, final rounds on average.
FYI, our winner for our Patreon giveaway is from Illinois. So that's why number 19, it got to the I's for Illinois. I sorted it. It's Ryan Pilcher.
Oh, that guy?
That guy.
We actually gave him some airtime last week.
I know, Mr. Ryan Pilcher.
All right. Well, congrats. I know where to hunt that guy down.
Yep.
Thank you for your support, Ryan.
He was the 5th Illinois person.
And has been a Patreon supporter since 2017.
Pretty good.
I don't know if he's ever even won before either.
I think he won at least one other time. It's been a while, but
it's been a minute.
It has been a minute.
Okay. Well, Ryan, you're going to have to come retrieve it from me because I'm not going to pay for shipping to you. That math works out. Where the gas is cheaper here.
Is it? Does it work that way, Terry?
I don't know. That's what we'll tell him. He'll be forced. All right. Well, thank you so much to Ryan and all of our other Patreon supporters. I don't have much else, Johnny.
Yeah, Pilcher himself says second time winning.
Wow, since 2017.
But you're a winner because we get to hang out with you sometimes. So it's
a stretch, but we'll go with that if he feels so. What's the prize, Ryan? A pod full of Johnny's Frisbees.
You just have to find out where I live. Come get it.
I'll tell you. All right. I think we're going to call it. It's, obviously things were a little bit quieter this week, and that's just fine.
It's okay.
It was not quiet on.
We've got like 5 straight weeks of events, I think, coming up.
Plenty of things going on. You're going to hear people like me talk way too much in the next month or so, especially with things like the World's coming up and possibly some daily shows there and some other things. If you want to support any of the bonus World's coverage that I'm going to be putting out, please reach out to me. Maybe your company or your club or something might have some interest in having a little representation. I am eligible to take on a couple of advertisers for that particular event. So let me know. And
John's MVP pod presenting Terry's.
Yeah, that's for the right price.
Oh, good.
I'll sell out to anyone for anything. Okay, we're gonna call it. That's been. The other quick note, as I was just about to call it. Let us know. I don't know if that 3-shot. I guess it was way back in the regular show.
Yeah.
We changed things up just a little bit to see if maybe. The way that we have the screen structured and the layout of the screen, that might help us make some additional content later.
So many people these days have the vertical phone stuff. So if you want to do socials, it makes it hard to the way we had it before. So I kind of made a post out there on the comments, but yeah, we're going to start to slowly change a few things up. I'm not necessarily in love with this one, but it's what I created last week real quick.
Yeah, so we'll see if it works, and plus that's the smaller box. I look bigger. That didn't work. All right, that's been podcast 508's after show. Thank you to Deann Carey for joining us. Thank you for an incredible weekend, everyone out there in Washington. Have a good weekend this weekend. Hopefully, you're consuming the live action over there for Portland or wherever you might be or whatever you're doing. Stay safe, have fun, and we'll see you next week. You step inside the Smashbox.